Welcome back to the Art of MMA. I am your host, Amal Thompson. I am with
You're here with Roger.
I'm here with Roger, and we're here to cover the UFC Seattle card. Man, lots of exciting fights on this one.
hmm
Quite a few finishes. I think the main card had full finishes, if I could remember that correctly. No fight went to decision on the main card. Am I lying to the people? No, I'm not lying to the
I
people.
do not believe you are
No,
lying to the
yep,
people.
no judges needed for the entire main card. That
Yeah.
is a bit of a rarity these days.
Yes, it
And
is.
it was exciting finishes. So I can't wait to get into that. Me and Roger saw both those. But I'm kind of going to go over a brief synopsis of the prelims, seeing as Roger wasn't able to catch those.
Yes.
You know, hard worker over here. Um, Alexia Teixeira versus Bruna Brazil. We did not get into prelim these, but Bruna's kind of been on a little bit of a down slump.
hmm
This fight has happened before. Bruna won it. Alexa was able to get her revenge, though. Dominated with the takedown attempts, dominated on the feet, and at one point, Bruna just looked like she checked out. Didn't look like she really
Really?
wanted to be there. Yeah. She was getting wrestled to the ground, and she'd be on her back, and she'd plant her feet kind of in the hip cavity to try to get
hmm
back up.
Yeah.
Um, and then she'd be like 50 to 60% of the way up, and then she'd just open back up her legs and allow her to get full guard again.
Mm-hmm.
The facial expressions weren't positive. Um, she caught Thyner at the end of the second with like a
Yeah.
spinning elbow or a spinning attack that I thought could have shifted things if there were like 15 seconds left in the round.
Yeah.
But even
Yeah.
after that like attempt, you could see like she was still kind of checked out.
Yeah.
So she gets beat, unfortunately, for her. And Thyner at 14-1 is running her way to possibly the top of that strawweight division.
Yeah.
I think she's up for some higher comp now that she's gotten that win back. I'm excited to see what that is in terms of strawweights and creating that fight. I don't necessarily have one yet. I got to see some more things shake out there.
Yeah.
But I love her opportunity to kind of make a name in the strawweight division. And she's big, she's strong, technical in both practices. I still think she's a better grappler than striker.
Okay.
But I think, that could serve well in that division for sure. One of the more controversial fights of the night, though, which there were a couple, but one of the more controversial fights of the night, Ricky Simon versus Adrian Yanez. Now,
hmm
I scored the first round for Yanez based on activity. I think Simone had moments, but I think I scored it for Yanez. I can't argue anybody scoring it for Simone. Second round, I had for Yanez for sure. So at that point, I had it even. I'm going
Okay.
into the third. Yanez took a little bit of a strong strike from Ricky Simone, but
hmm
from 4 minutes on, it was the Yanez show. And then especially in the last 10 seconds, he had almost a stoppage
Yeah.
moment against Simone. Again, 3 more seconds on the clock, they probably stopped the fight.
Okay.
We got a 10-8 round. We got 2 10-9s for Simone and then a 10-8 round, which I've seen a lot of UFC fights over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah.
I've rarely seen a 10-8 round.
Yeah.
And I
They were supposed
challenged
to be more
Roger,
accessible.
yeah, it's supposed to be more accessible, but I challenged Roger to go back and watch that fight so we could come on here and discuss on a separate pod this 10-8 round and how we got there. Because all we kept hearing about from the commentators is these might be boxing judges that we have sitting on the side of the octagon, which, joke or no joke,
Usually
that's insane at this level.
I'm pretty sure that they are, though, because it's the same commission that runs them. So, I mean, I know some of these guys are more well versed in MMA than others, but if that's one of the long standing issues that MMA has had in the
Mhm.
sport is that they're scored the same way as judges and tend to use the same judges that boxing uses, and
Yep.
not people that are trained to judge boxing are not necessarily well versed in what's happening in the octagon or,
Mhm.
the PFL or any of these other they're just not well versed in it. Now I'm sure that there are plenty of them that are now, but I'm sure there's still sneaking some in there that are just boxing judges, and they really don't know what they're looking at. When somebody's on top and they're in control or going for a submission or getting a takedown, do they even know what a takedown is to even judge that? Do
I'd
they
hope so.
know, like, he's not really causing damage with what he's doing, but do the judges know that? That's been a long-standing
Issue.
issue that MMA has had to deal with, and it's mostly because in the way they're regulated with the commissions and who employs them and the judges and such. So,
Well, they love punching because they gave Giannis a 10-8 round, which I love
I
punching, but I
figure you
didn't
would
see
love
10-8.
that.
Yeah, I love punching, but I didn't see a 10-8 round.
And I'll say, looking at the stats, I don't know if it's a 10-8 round, because I guess, we established I didn't see the fight, but one knockdown, 41-17 on total
Roger.
strikes, 40-17 on significant strikes.
We've watched a lot of fighting.
I mean, we have.
We've watched a lot of fighting. I watched O'Malley use Chris Moutinho as a heavy bag. He did not get any 10-8 rounds in that fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, we watched a fight card in Dubai where the guy got knocked down, I think it was 13 times in 2 rounds. No 10-8. Like,
yeah.
So, again, if it's boxing judges judging their first MMA card,
right,
and that's what the argument's going to be, sure. Is it, oh crap, I might have scored the first 2 rounds wrong and I can't rob Yanez this poorly because he picked it up so much in the third, but I gave the first 2 rounds one that was razor thin and one that potentially should be for Yanez. I gave them both to Simone, and I need to correct it now, correctively adjust so that I don't cost Yanez a fight, and that's how you're like trying to rectify it, like by correctively judging it. Then that's also wrong. But I could take that explanation a lot more than just like, yeah, I saw it as a 10-8,
Yeah.
And the one judge that had not a draw had it for Yanez. So I don't know. It's when you go back and watch it, we're gonna do another pod. You tell me what you think about that fight. We'll open up talking about that one.
I mean, usually we don't have unanimous judge cards, and I'm looking at this card here, and 2 of them, as you already know, were 10-9, 10-9, Ricky Simon, 10-8, Yanez. 2 of them scored it that way. The other one was 10-9, 10-9, Simone, and the last one was a 10-9 Yanez, which gave the fight to Simone.
Okay, yes. So Simone, he gave it to Simone, yeah.
But they both gave those first 2 to Ricky Simone, which is interesting. Yeah, that's I will have to go back and watch that, and I apologize for not doing it earlier.
You're good.
But
side note, Ricky Simone is from Seattle.
Yeah.
Side note, like, he wrestled in that arena quite frequently in that area. Like, that is his hometown. Right, so I don't want to say there's any biases, but
now,
there might be.
I know during that fight, Sal D'Amato has been around, and he was one of the judges in that. So he's done a lot of their fights. The other 2 names I don't recognize. But I know Sal D'Amato does a lot of MMA fights.
And he had it for Samo?
He gave it the same. He gave it the 10-8 in the third. I don't know. I'd like to know. I'd like to hear from them from time to time. Maybe somebody interview them and say, well, why did you give this 10-8? Why did you give these 10-9?
I'm going to go back and rewatch it so that while you rewatch it, I'm watching it with fresh eyes and seeing if I could see where there's a 10-8.
Yeah.
Because, again, I've watched a lot of dominant rounds. I've seen very few 10-8s.
And I'm going to give you this here. Different judges, but we'll talk about later that Ignacio fight, Ignacio Bahamondes, Tofik Musayev. Only one person gave a 10-8 round in that fight. If you remember that fight and how bad one of those rounds was, only one judge gave a 10-8.
In which one?
The Bahamondes. Only one judge gave a 10-8. And that,
I can't wait to talk about that one too.
and if we'll
I
talk
can't wait to
about
talk
that one
about
in a
that
little
one.
bit, but yeah, to have a 10-8 in a round where you're questioning it, and then one who looks, I'll be honest with you, pretty unquestionable that should have been a 10-8. Um, if there was a 10-8 round on the night, that was a 10-8 round, and
The one where
and
he's on his
only
back just leaking
just
everywhere.
bleeding. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a clear 10-8 to me, and
Are you talking
only
about the
one
initial one
judge.
or the third round where he was just getting?
I mean,
Because if
to
it's
be
the initial
honest,
one, I have an
you could
argument
you could go
as
with
to what
both
it
on
really
that,
should
and
be.
yeah, I could see that. I think I know what your argument's going to be, and I think we're in agreement on that. But
Mm-hmm.
barring that, um, I could,
Yeah,
yeah, I
I know
don't,
where you're going.
I could, you know what though? Because you got to remember what happened at the beginning of that second round. So maybe you would go 10-9 there, but I don't know because the last 4 minutes of that round was
Yeah,
domination. So,
yeah, it was
you know,
crazy how
all
you
right,
could dominate. Anyway, next fight before we get, because we're gonna skip ahead, and I feel it coming. But we're
okay,
before we skip ahead, let's hop into these few that, because I mean they're good fights before that one. Um, Navajo, Sterling, Bruno Lopez. Navajo has been one of these prospects that they've been pushing forward.
uh-huh,
Um, he came back with the Dan Hooker special, full sleeves,
uh-huh,
all tatted up, full camp with Izzy, prepared to put on a show. Hasn't been able to get a UFC finish. Was a huge favorite over Bruno Lopez. Favorite over Bruno Lopez. First round, I wouldn't say is even, but for somebody with Sterling's reach advantage and Sterling's speed advantage, I didn't like how often he was getting touched by Bruno Lopez. Um, and he got touched fairly often. Now, second round, he did what he was supposed to do, utilize that speed. The right hand, the commentators were calling it, was there the entire time. Bruno Lopez, his head is on the line. He's standing in front of him. He doesn't have the speed to get out the way. The right hand was in the way. Was there the entire time. Dropped him. Finished him.
nice,
Good win for Sterling. In terms of where it places him in the light heavyweight division, Sterling didn't show me enough movement as well. Sterling didn't show me enough activity
uh-huh,
to be touched by Bruno Lopez that often. You put him in there against a Khalil Roundtree or a guy who's a lot more skilled and the punches are a lot more consequential.
uh-huh,
I could see him, unfortunately, getting a little bit of a reality check in there. I think he needs to work on the defense. Or if he's going to lean into the power and speed, be a little bit more ferocious. Don't be as calculated.
uh-huh,
Um, you know, not saying like decision wins are bad, and you did your thing by getting Bruno Lopez out of there. But if you're not going to execute quick and precise, and you're going to be measured, you need to be a little bit more in motion. You can't
hmm,
stand there and get popped because light heavyweights punch hard. They do.
yeah,
And you survived. Not to say you got hurt necessarily, but you survived some exchanges with Bruno Lopez where if it was a guy who was a lot more skilled across from you,
mm,
those could have
yeah,
led to different outcomes. So
yeah,
great win for him. I'm excited to see what they make for him next. I wouldn't mind seeing Sterling Jamal Hill, something like that. Um, I don't think he's in the realms of like the Khalil Roundtrees yet and stuff like that. He
uh-huh,
is undefeated. Maybe he gets the winner of Dominic Reyes, Johnny Walker. I wouldn't be against that either as a good
okay,
test out feeler. Um, One of those guys who are trying to build their name back up. They knock out the other knockout prone guy, and then they go in against a pretty highly ranked prospect and can probably take his shine. And then they get their opportunity to kind of go back in that top 6 range of fights. But um, that's how I see it kind of working out for him. I wouldn't give him a premium fight just yet.
hmm,
Protect your asset a little bit more. Put it that way.
yeah,
And then we go into the
he
next
needs,
one: Casey O'Neill, Gabriel Fernandez. Um, Casey O'Neill's coming off a long layoff. I think a lot of the sharps were saying Gabriel Fernandez was the move. Apparently, Casey O'Neill went to, I think they said Thailand, to learn a little bit of Thai striking. She put it to good use. Very, very accurate, very, very precise strikes in the pocket against Fernandez. Just started teeing off on her, finished her in the first round. Beautiful performance. Um, I was impressed, honestly, but with one round of like fight
Yeah.
view, she seemed like she was moving well, and the hands looked crisp. I
Mm-hmm.
got to see her in there again soon because Fernandez was on a bit of a streak there. Fernandez was looking
Yeah.
good, so for her to take that shine after three years layoff, I think is what they said. I'm excited to see what the future holds for her. Again in a women's fighting area now, where we're seeing some fun ones, Roger. We're seeing some exciting potential matchups
Yeah.
starting to rear their heads. So, um, I was excited to see that fight end the way it did. And I was excited to see how fluid the striking was from Casey O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think we're in for seeing her potentially on, if they could find her an opponent. Let's try to get her on that Perth card. I think it would be nice to add her to that Perth card that they have Tai Tuivasa scheduled to fight on. Because I think she's Australian.
Yeah, she is.
So yeah, that would be fun to try to find her an opponent for that one because she didn't really break a sweat. She says she wants to stay active, so
Okay.
find her a flyweight that's out there. Slow me down if you think I'm going too fast with these first
No,
prelim ones.
I think you're good.
All right. Tyrell Fortune, Marcin Tybura. This was a very, very disappointing fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tybura is leaps and bounds slower than Fortune. Tybura is leaps and bounds less agile than Fortune. Um, Fortune might need to get a new corner also because he dominated Tybura on the ground in the first round, especially. And I'm a bit of a betting man. I wanted it to end before the bell. That's what I had. I think it was either fighter by KO. That's what I was hoping to see. But if Fortune had leaned into his wrestling with the success he had in the first, he might have been able to get a submission, if not ground and pound. Yes, he is quite a bit faster. Yes, he was throwing this 3-2 combination that every time he set it up, it landed. It wasn't dropping Tybura, but it landed. His corner was focused on him standing and striking. I get it. He's faster. He's more agile in his landing. He was dominating on the ground. Without question. Guide your fighter to his strengths. The 3-2 is landing, but he's not putting him out. And he's not setting up anything outside of the 3-2. It's feints. It's moving. Right? And when they're on the feet, Tybura is actually able to get a jab off. Jab and keep distance. Throw a kick and keep distance. And to the point where it's given Tybura opportunities to win rounds. Because I think the final scorecards were like 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. And the only way Tybura got around is off of that distance management, jabs, stiff jabs to the face, jabs to the body, and leg kicks. If he just leans into that wrestling, because again, it's effective wrestling too. It's not just laying on top. He dominates and he cruises, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, something funny happened in this one. They called the fight for Tybura.
Yeah.
And yes, it would have been a robbery, but all Fortune thought was, man, I didn't do enough to really sway them from giving the fight to the ranked guy. Which, again, if you just lean into what you were winning the fight with, you wouldn't even have to be thinking that way because you did stand and get popped a lot with the jab and stuff for no reason. So
yeah, did they call? They called the win for Marcin
Tybura.
Yeah, but did they do an interview with him as well?
No.
So there wasn't a winning interview with him, and then they turned around and announced the other guy won. Okay, I mean that's a little better, but
I mean everybody looked around. I think a judge or somebody yelled out before it got to that point. Okay. I think when DC was standing in there, he was standing next to Fortune for a bit, and then he heard it, and then he looked around to be like, "Are we sure?" You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are we sure?
So there's an adjustment before. It was quickly corrected. Okay. I felt bad for Bruce Buffer more than anything else.
Yeah.
But I was about to be very heated because again, I don't even have like significant money on either guy. But actually, I did. I had like $10 on Tybura by decision.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, that's a robbery, but it might have won me money, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, there's no way he won that fight. So they corrected it. Talked to Fortune. Excited for him.
Good.
Obviously, that moves him into the top 10 of the heavyweights. You gotta love the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see where that holds. But has a good speed factor. Has a good gas tank. Needs to fight a little bit
That's
more to
good.
his strengths. Needs to talk to his corner about, hey, look, even if I'm faster, if I'm not doing anything with it, I need to go to what's winning me this fight, right? I don't need to be standing here just taking jabs because, I mean, he runs into the wrong guy and you lean him into that, or you're faster, just keep striking him. A la or a guy who just won against Anta Delish. His name is evading me right now, but he jabbed his face off
Spivak.
the whole fight. Yeah, Spivak. If you run into a Spivak and that's your game plan, those jabs are a lot stiffer.
Yeah,
he is a little bit quicker. I still think Fortune beats him out of the water athletically, but you're putting yourself in a dangerous position for what?
Yeah.
Work your strengths, ground and pound. It's a good win for Fortune. Welcome to the top 10, and there's some fights up there for him.
That was quick.
Now
top 10.
I know, right? Now for a very fun one. Chase Hooper, Lance Gibson Jr.
Did you think this was going to be a fun one when it was announced?
Okay, so here's my thinking, right? Obviously, you guys didn't get a preview from us, right? But my thinking was, if Chase Hooper is able to engage safely and get him on the mat, it's going to be a long day for Gibson because I could see him having the strength to fight out of Chase's submissions for a bit, but I feel like Chase would just wear on him. Where I feel like the fight could shift is if Chase Hooper did what Chase Hooper did, which is engage with no plan to really get him onto the mat outside of just, I'm going to grab a leg or grab a body part and pull you down.
Yeah.
Chase Hooper needs to go back down a weight division because if you look at how both these guys are structured, Gibson has a strong base. Gibson wasn't just going to be yanked on the floor by his attempt. And Gibson worked the side of his head with an elbow for a good 15 seconds before he disengaged and tried to stand again. And I think from that initial interaction, Chase was hurt.
Yeah.
Gibson just put some really strong shots on him after that and got him out of there. As a grappler, your hands have to be somewhat consequential, especially when you're going in there against guys who are strong and, again, have a fairly strong wrestling base and aren't just going to get pulled onto the ground.
Yeah.
Right? And when you are fighting at a lower weight class and doing a bit of weight bullying, you can have the opportunity when you swell back up to drop somebody with a jab or, again, just go up to a guy and body lock him and drop him. These guys are big for Chase Hooper. So my initial read was, if Chase wins, it's by submission. I don't think he's going to stand in front of him and jab him away. I don't think he has a power that's going to give Lance Gibson much to worry about. So the path to victory for Chase would have been by sub. But I thought if Lance Gibson was going to win this fight, it was going to be in the first round with a flurry of, again, heavy hits. And Chase's chin has not really been proven to be that strong, especially at this weight class. And that's kind of how it played out. My only regret is only putting $2 on it. but for Gibson, I mean, it is a crazy dart throw. But there was a method to the madness, right? For Gibson, I don't think this makes me go, okay, nice. We have a prospect. That King Green fight still leaves me a lot to be desired. Granted, fights on short notice, I'm starting to reassess how they look. Because you don't really plan for a guy, you don't really have a full training camp.
Right.
And to his credit, him not going out there and getting finished spectacularly might have saved him an opportunity to get another one. And now he got his first win in his hometown. He was born in Seattle. Against, another Seattle kid who everybody was rooting for. They were booing Gibson after he won. I think this is the first time I think there's been a father-son win duo in the UFC. If I'm not mistaken, they had a bunch of historical aspects. Yeah, he didn't win his last one. And I think you could find a fun fight for him still, but I think we should pump the brakes a little bit on what this fight meant necessarily, because Chase Hooper has the name, but the UFC pedigree, at least in this weight class, hasn't really been there for me. And he's
Mm,
shown these deficiencies that could be exploited
right.
before. And I think people just went, Lance Gibson really was terrible against King Green, not
Right.
realizing like King Green is a power striker and
Oh, yeah.
has a lot of dangerous tools that you don't necessarily want to engage with, especially when not prepared.
Yeah.
Not giving him excuses, but there's varying levels of skill set, and I
Yeah.
think his skill set just kind of matched what could beat Chase in a small window.
And I would say this when looking at the two fights we've seen him in. Well, you've seen him in two fights. I didn't see the Chase one, but when I saw him as King Green, I'm
Hmm.
reminded sometimes in a lot of these where fans are not happy, fans wanted him to do this or wanted him to do that, and I understand that. But
Hmm.
Tyron Woodley, Wonder Boy, people were calling those fights the most boring fights, and Tyron said, "Look, this is Wonder Boy. What do you want me to do? I have to go out and win a title. My title is on the line. I have to defend my title and win the fight. And you want me to run recklessly around Wonder Boy? Like, I have to fight this fight a certain way." And when Lance Gibson was fighting King Green,
Hmm.
he's not just going to stand in the pocket and throw with him. His game plan was actually pretty good. And for short notice, he was very active and he stayed on the outside. He was bouncing around. He was in and out, and people didn't like it. Yes, he lost the fight, but that was probably his best chance on short notice to go in there and win
I blamed
because he,
King Green more for that fight than anything
yeah.
else.
Um, but you know, the, the idea that you have to fight someone the same way every time and you can't be defensively cautious, like, or defensively responsible in a fight
Hmm.
is one of those things that every time I look at somebody, and they're shutting somebody down, but it's not in an exciting way. I think
Hmm.
back to that Woodley fight, that Woodley Wonder Boy couple of fights they had, and it's like, sometimes you have to fight the fight that way to get the win. Um, so I don't, I'll watch this fight when I watch the other fights. I'll probably end up watching all the prelims, um, but it'll be interesting to see where he goes with this. I think him taking Hooper out like that is something that um, just kind of shows that he does have potential. Now, how much
Yeah,
potential, we'll see. But I think it'll show him having potential. I think it's one
the
notch
thing
down for
is,
Hooper, though.
yeah, it's definitely again. You look at Hooper, right? We got Hooper in the. If you give Hooper King Green, I think King Green does the same thing with Hooper. Um, he belongs at a lower weight class
Hmm.
for his skill set. It's just he has trouble making that weight. So that's the tough. If you're not gonna build your body and build
Yeah.
your defensive skills to hang in there against bigger body guys that
Hmm.
you can't just pull to the ground, you got to develop a jab, maybe some kind of entry level uh attacking to where you're
Hmm.
not just throwing the arms out and wrapping and dragging, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna be successful against these guys. It's not flyweight, it's not featherweight, right? And
Yeah.
you don't have like this elite next level strength where or like fun trips. Like he's not a samba guy,
Right.
like he doesn't have like good
Yeah.
engaging
Now,
techniques. It's usually just wrap and pull, wrap and pull, and then when he's down there, he could be a problem. But the
yeah.
fights don't start on the mat. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know.
You know, one of the things that would probably um if you remember, like little kids fighting on the
Mhm.
pickup game field and any tussles you might have had, like there's a give and take of weight. Like if I
Mhm.
if I've got leverage on them this way, and you learn it by going back and forth with people. And I wonder if some of these people don't get too technical, that they forget that that is an actual
Part of the
legit,
game.
yeah, an actual legit part to get people down. You look at the Russians, and That's a lot of what they're doing is just using their weight, and they're tossing you back and forth. They're moving you. They're getting you off balance, and as soon as they feel you off balance, they've got 18 different ways to take you down, and none
Yeah.
of them are super super technical, even though they are technical. But they're stuff that a lot of people would do naturally. Tripping, a back trip and things like that is pretty natural on some of that stuff. And
You know what I've never really seen?
what's that?
I've never seen a Russian wrestler or
Hmm.
one of the Dagestanis or anything, with their head in a vulnerable position to be elbowed when they're taking a takedown. I've seen head under armpit.
Hmm.
I've seen head under rib cage.
Yep.
I've seen head behind back of leg. I've never seen head on hip
Yeah.
in elbowing range when they attempt those takedowns. They always seem to be in the perfect position to where, you know,
Hmm.
those detrimental strikes aren't an option. And they're
Yeah.
still wrapped onto you, but they protect their asset.
Yeah.
They stay conscious. And I'm gonna pay a little bit more attention the next time I see a Hamzat fight,
Hmm.
which will be soon, allegedly. I'm gonna pay a little bit more attention the next time I see a Islam fight, right?
Hmm.
To see like how's the entry, because they do have hands,
Yeah.
and they are very strong, right? But once they get close to the body, why are they never in range to get elbowed to the side of the head? I
It's
watched Jalton Almeida lose a fight against, I
hmm
think it was Curtis Blades,
yeah.
that way, where he just threw his head on his hip
Yeah.
and Curtis Blades just wrecked it, right? Like, so
So
some of the better guys who are supposed to be these takedown specialists
hmm
lead with bad technique, in my opinion. I'm not a grappler,
hmm
but if my head is where your elbow could hit me,
yeah.
that doesn't seem ideal. Um, what are these Russians doing that are different? You know? Um,
It's and I can't answer all of that question, but I
yeah,
can answer from um, two things. One, a lot of times they put the head in the chest or they look up the back when they
yeah,
get
they do
on the
that too.
back
Yeah.
side. So in wrestling in a high crotch, when you come through, you look up the back. Now they're not all going to do that. I saw DC actually teaching this, um, and he was talking about keeping the head in a responsible position, and knowing him and Khabib being so tight, it's probably
Hmm.
something they've done together. Keeping the head in that responsible position to where you can't get elbowed and you can't get guillotined so quickly. And he's telling him, on a high crotch, you're a wrestler. You want to look up the back. Don't look up the back. As soon as you look up the back, that head's there to guillotine, right?
Yeah.
And so when you entrance, are you putting the head on the chest? Are you putting it down? Because when you run the pipe, when you're taking them down to the ground, a lot of people dip their head down. And he's like, don't
Hmm.
dip your head down. Your arms come down on their leg, and that's where you get your leverage. Because if you bring your head down, you're right there for the elbows. So they do practice that, at least to an extent. Now they could get a lot more detailed than I ever could, but but some of that is very intentional, and very much practiced to for that
Okay.
head position to stay
I figured.
out of danger.
I mean, the Peter Yan again, who doesn't fight like any of the Dagestanis, is the same thing. I've never seen him put
Mhm.
his head in danger like that.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and they also have a strong wrestling background usually.
mhm.
So even if they're doing sambo and freestyle wrestling over there are so, the communities, from what I understand, are very close. So even
Yeah.
though like Khabib would lose to all 18 gold medalists in his village in a straight
Hmm.
wrestling match, he wasn't a wrestler. He was doing sambo. That doesn't mean he
Yeah.
doesn't have a strong wrestling base. BJJ doesn't generally have a strong wrestling base unless the person went somewhere else to get the wrestling, high school, college, yada yada yada. Um, so a lot of these guys that do that, unless they've got that wrestling background, and when you go into American schools, it's not freestyle wrestling, it's folk style wrestling, which is a different style of wrestling. The points are scored different. You get points for some things in freestyle that you don't get for folk style. So all your college wrestling, it is a little bit different than the wrestling they do with freestyle. And they have freestyle in America, but that's not what they do in college and um, high school. So, and there is no Olympic folk style to my knowledge. I think it's all freestyle and Greco-Roman. Um,
Yeah.
So, um, it's a little bit different, but BJJ doesn't have a lot of great takedowns. And so when you go
Mm-hmm.
there, you don't get a lot of experience, and you see these guys from Russia doing body locks, and you don't know what you're doing with a body lock. You just know that if I grab onto him and pull him down, a lot of times he comes down with me. But if the guy's too big, like you're saying, you know, and they
Strong base,
don't
somewhat
necessarily
wrestling.
work on getting the leverage like that. Now, if you throw in judo, which Sambo uses, judo is very good at throwing people off balance, and that's probably where Pyotr Yan and a lot of your Russians get some of that stand-up grappling for getting people off balance for. A lot of that is going to be judo, which is also the base for jujitsu. But when you go to most, no jujitsu gym that I've been to, except for one, has had a strong judo program. So you don't get a lot of good takedowns. It's either somebody who used to wrestle, who's trying to show people who have never wrestled before how to do a takedown, or it's
Mm-hmm.
somebody, it's just, somebody who's doing jujitsu stuff and they do a lot of grabbing the gi, putting the foot on the hip to bring you down. Well, when you don't have a gi, it's kind of hard to do, you know?
I
So,
think location and training is very important because
oh,
you
sure.
mentioned like jujitsu and not having a strong judo program here. And not to go too far off base, but like you look at a guy like Ian Gary, who's kind of a chameleon, right? Like he
Hmm.
runs into different camps, different countries, goes to different gyms, and he tries to expand his martial arts essentially playbook as far and wide as he can.
Hmm.
He's willing to go into these spaces and learn different practices,
Yeah.
which I think is benefiting him tremendously,
Hmm.
no matter how boring you think his fights are. Um, we have a group of guys here and girls here who are being told that like they're going to be the future of the American MMA scene,
Hmm.
and I don't know how many of them are stepping into, you know, like as Ian Gary said, going to Georgia to learn Georgian
Yeah, you
wrestling,
really don't see
or
that a lot.
going to Brazil. You know, Mackenzie Dern's always been a UFC darling
Hmm.
and had potential. Becomes Brazilian. I'm being facetious, but becomes Brazilian, and like her grappling and even her striking to a certain degree exponentially grows, right? Um, Based on what she was doing early in her career to now.
Yeah.
Um, I think there should be a shift in training for a lot of these people who have the athletic advantage that a lot of American fighters can have,
Hmm.
um, in getting the proper training, and I, I don't want to say it's like a humility thing, right? But again, not to go too far off script, you go U.S. men's national team soccer has been a struggling asset for so
Yeah.
long, and it's not lack of athletes.
No.
I feel like it's lack of programs and lack of proper training
Hmm.
and lack of being like we're probably not the best at this. Let's try to send some of our best players to other
Yeah.
countries to be in academies and stuff like that, and incentivize soccer being important in the country if we really want to make it important in the country,
Hmm.
right? Um, which some guys are doing. There's some
Yeah.
prospects for sure, but it needs to be a little bit more of a okay. We don't have the best training and facilities for this practice.
Right.
Let's I don't want to say outsource it, but let's utilize our resources,
Yeah,
right?
you do hear a lot of people coming over to the US and working out at like AKA and Top Team and, you
Yeah,
know, but you don't hear as much of the people from Top Team going somewhere else and training for a while, or somebody
no,
from
for sure.
America going over somewhere else. And that would benefit, because you would get
What
some of
helped
that.
Jorge's renaissance? He left and was in Thailand for like 2 years, right?
Yeah, you
Like,
do hear about him going to Thailand though. People
yeah,
like Thailand.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you have people who had to step away. I think Khalil Roundtree has gone
Hmm.
overseas.
Yep.
Like some of these
Thailand.
guys who make it close to the top, they do shift and go somewhere else to
Hmm.
practice. Um, and that's where I feel like a Macy Barber, not to jump ahead, but like maybe a Macy Barber could go to Brazil for a bit and figure out something there and some different practices and stuff like that
Hmm.
instead of just repetition in the same routine that doesn't seem to really get you as far. I think the only guy, and he's an anomaly. Well, not just him. A couple guys have had success, but they're just so skilled at what they did. The DCs, the John
Mm-hmm.
Jones. I say Stipe to a certain extent, but he had an athletic advantage over that division for a very,
Mm-hmm.
very long time.
Yep.
The Henry Cejudos, I guess, technically, right? Like guys
Mm-hmm.
like that, Demetrius Johnson, where they're like the elite of the elite athletically, very tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these guys are gold medalists in the Olympics, so they were already the best at
Yeah.
their practice in the world, and they're
Mm-hmm.
American, and they carried that over. If I feel like you're entering in the MMA space as mainly an MMA person, a shift in practices could help you a ton.
Yeah.
Just getting as much knowledge from as many different
Yeah.
practices could help you a ton, a la a Chase Hooper, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to do that, then maybe you shift to like the BJJ world where you're an elite asset there and you don't have to worry about the strikes and you could take people down and not to kick him out the UFC, but we might need to do a little bit of reworking on how we approach fighting.
Well, get a little bit
If
of
we're not gonna,
fresh blood in there.
yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Now we're heading into the fights that we both saw, so I can't wait to talk
All
about
right.
this one. Ignacio Bahamondes versus Tofik Masayev.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm starting a fight club of Roger's new favorite fighters, I think Tofik Masayev will land squarely in there. Because my boy said, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. There's a cage there. Grab it. That's what Tofik Masayev said.
Oh my gosh!
If
He's
you are
been
falling,
listening, man. He's been paying attention. He knew.
He saw the fence. It's there for a reason.
He's seen probably 3 or 4 fence grabs in the last few weeks, and not a single one netted a negative point.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he was on the ropes and he was almost, oh man, he looked like he was almost out. And for some reason, I think this was one of the biggest mistakes of the fight, was Bahamondes trying to take him to the ground to begin with. Because Bahamondes was beating him on the feet for 1 1/4 round, almost. Was beating him on his feet, almost had him out and tried to take him to the ground. And my guy grabbed the fence and he said, no,
He pulled it.
Yeah.
I've never seen a fence with that much like resistance.
See,
you've seen a little
plexiglass would stop that.
The plexiglass would stop that, or better yet, get rid of the whole thing. Knock him and he fly right out the ring.
There you go. Right? If you go outside of the ring,
you could climb back in if you're okay.
Yeah.
Or better yet, have Bahamondes jump off the ring into the crowd.
Now we're all in there. Start brawling.
Start brawling.
Look, I'll say this again. If you're going to have the cage, you should be able to use it. On the other hand,
he used it.
If you're going to say you can't use the cage, you need to call it 100% of the time you see it. Not give him a warning. You stop it right there. You have to stop it right there. That whole fight would have been different. If he grabbed the cage, they took a point, and that would have completely changed the fight. Now, do you put him right back in the position they were? Do you start him over? We could figure that out later. But if you were to stop the fight right there and take a point away,
changes the whole fight.
Bahamondes
there was
might
a
win
headbutt
that
too. I'm not gonna.
Oh yeah,
I'm
there
not
was
gonna harp on the
definitely a
headbutt too much. I'm not gonna harp on that too much. It was bad, but I'm not gonna harp on that too much.
Inadvertent or not.
Yeah,
I know there are times where they both duck down and it's hard to see who did what. Okay, I can see a little leeway there, but that was not who did what. One guy's head was on the mat, and the other guy's head went right into him.
Yep.
So that could have been 2 points. And the thing is, if we've said it before, if there's a holding call on a wide receiver down the field, when the ref sees it, you call it intentional or not. That's the way it should be.
Ref doesn't go, did you mean that?
Yeah, they don't say, hey, don't grab the jersey. Don't grab the jersey. No, you grab the jersey. So we're gonna set you back there. This should not be something we're discussing with all these fights. Yes. Every week there's an eye poke with no points called.
There's a fence grab.
There's a fence grab. Who was it? I'm watching the fight. Oh my gosh. I don't remember which fight it was. And they're talking about how good this guy's defense is. And the whole time he's got the guy's shorts halfway off of him grabbing him. Like, that's not good defense. Like, you're not supposed to be grabbing the shorts. Now, by my logic, you should be able to grab the shorts, I guess, because if the fence is there, you can grab it.
It's a fight.
So
It's a
why
fight.
not? But they're not going to do that. So if you're going to implement the rules and have them playing by the rules, then you need to
Hmm.
enforce the rules. And if you're not going to
I
enforce
agree.
the rules, um, Chael Sonnen said at one time, if there's no consequence, then there really is no rule. And there hasn't been a consequence for fence grabbing. And
That's
so
a fact.
you saw the fight go the way it went, and it went that way because the UFC or the officials or the athletic commissions have allowed it to go that way. And that's why Bahamondes got bloodied up so bad. And maybe he would have anyway, but we'll never know because you didn't stop the fight. You didn't take the point. And we saw a completely different fight than we should have seen.
Masaev has a W on his record.
Yes, he
Bahamondes has
does.
an L.
That's right. And you know what?
And unless you're like really loving the sport, as we kind of like this, love the sport, you're not gonna go back and track and be like, okay, let's look at how this looked, right? I
Yeah.
mean, are you gonna go back and watch the fight? Probably
Nope.
not. I love the sport. If I just 2 years from now is going back and being like, okay, Masaev is in the top 10, but Hamondes is a top 25 fighter still,
Mm-hmm.
and they fought before. How did that fight go? I might go back and look.
Yep.
If I don't, I'm just like, dang, that's a good win from from Masaev, not realizing it really wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did, everything he did after the penalties, yes, he executed. He kept him on the ground.
Yeah.
He actually got taken down a bunch, but I think there's a level of weakness when you're leaking liters of blood around.
They're probably, but
Yeah, like
I'll
you're
tell you, he gets the award for toughness on this
no, for
card.
sure.
Holy
I've
smokes.
never seen leakage like that for a long time. Like, honestly,
mean-
there was a point where he tried to wrap him up in I think it was a rear naked choke. And I'm looking at blood just running down Masaev's arm. That's not his own blood. It's just like a horror movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man.
Yep.
I get it. Bahamondes knew he would have a ground advantage on Masaev. Like you said, he did have the advantage on the feet as well. But he's had bad moments in there with guys who he's taller than and supposed to be able to outstrike that have led to him losing fights or being in very bad fights.
I'll tell you, even with the cut, I believe Bahamondes, and maybe, I'm not going to be like, I mean, the guy was leaking blood. Who knows what he was thinking in there? I'm not going to criticize it.
Probably ouch.
Yeah. What I will say is, for whatever reason, he seemed to be choosing to stay on the ground and try submissions as opposed to get back up. There were a few times in the fight where I saw he's in a position, there's space, he gets halfway out of it, and then he goes right back down on his back. And maybe that's because of the cut. Maybe he didn't have the strength to get up. Maybe, I don't know. But there were chances for him to get back to his feet that he didn't take and chose to stay on the ground on his back, which led to him getting cut up more. That's how it appeared to me, and why he made those decisions to try to go for submissions like that. Maybe he saw it was the only way he could win the fight at that point. But that seemed to be what he was doing instead of getting up, because he was winning exchanges on the feet before the blood came. Maybe he didn't think he could afterwards. I don't know. But for some reason, that seemed to be the action he was taking. And
I lean with, if I'm gushing blood from a forehead wound, and I'm going to assume it hurts. I'm not a fighter, but I'm going to assume it hurts. Standing with a guy and getting popped on it over and over again, whether it be with a jab or like, based on the guy I'm fighting, he might headbutt me again, or like, if I feel like I could control his arms and potentially get a submission on the ground, I'm going to lean with that risk a little bit more than standing and striking with him. And who knows? He might be woozy in there.
Yeah.
He might actually just be really, really hurt.
Yeah.
And being on the feet isn't the best strategy when you're in that state. I'm leaning with that. I'm leaning with there was some thought to why I'm doing this, not just, oh gosh, get me out of here. Because if he wanted to, oh gosh, get me out of there, stay on the stool, or
and he wasn't giving up.
There's ways out.
Maybe he legitimately thought, like, if I stand up, I'm gonna go down, so I might as well stay down here and try to finish the fight this way. And hey, if that's what it was, fine. I don't have any issue.
He was just too slippery. I think if he wasn't bleeding as much, like he had an arm.
He had a couple of times where he had
a couple
submission
times where
attempts that if he wasn't so slick, he might would have been able to
you're
pull him off.
practically wrestling in olive oil at that point. The way it was looking, because like you can't hold on to anything with all of that liquid. It was crazy. I was like, you have every technique, you're executing everything how you want to, and then your hands just like this.
Yep.
Like you can't, and it's your forehead's
got
fault.
A triangle.
Technically,
no, I don't.
know, just right out of there.
Yeah,
it's tough to see, man. I think, and we lean back to it, right? Mike Malott is able to stop Kevin Holland's lineage and win a fight, right? Kevin Holland came on this week and said, "Thank God I have 2 kids already, because I think I'm done." Right? Based on what Mike Malott did to him. You know, he won the fight, but there were no point deductions of consequence.
I'm gonna start cheering for that. I think
exactly. They didn't stop the fight. I told you. Don't get me.
That's the game plan.
Exactly. If I'm in an amateur fight, it's run around for 1 round, maybe out jab you, and then I'm swinging. I'm swinging for them boys.
Yeah,
I'm swinging for it.
I mean,
because you're not taking points away.
Nope.
And if you say "ouchie, I can't go anymore," they'd be like, "Ah, that's too bad." Amal's 10-9 up on the rounds.
That's right.
He won.
Fence
so
grabs.
Like, you gotta nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And fence grabs have been in the spotlight before. I'm reminded of Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, where Chad Mendez is about to take Jose Aldo down, and Jose just grabs the fence just like this other guy did, a blatant grab. And he didn't, Chad Mendez couldn't lift him because he's grabbing the fence. And so when he goes back down, Aldo turns and knees him, and there's the knockout. And that, without that fence grab, that knockout doesn't happen. They thankfully got back in there and did another one, which is one of the best MMA fights I've seen. So if you've never seen the Chad Mendez Jose Aldo 2, great fight.
Go back and watch that one.
Yeah, fun fight. But the fence grabs, I'm gonna have to start cheering for them now because they're part of the game. The kicks, the eye pokes.
You guys are unlocking Roger's fighting league with the fence grabs and the nut kicks and the headbutts and all the penalties that aren't really penalties.
Look, I'll be cheering for him to take the point off. Like when that stuff happens, you got to take the point. But if you're not taking the point, I mean, the only thing that's going to make them start taking the point is when people do start implementing it into their game plan. But John Jones has shown that they're still not going to take the point. I mean, he literally fights like this, just like that.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna, if you're not gonna call it, people are gonna start using it.
I think you should be able to use the replays too. Replays being added to every sport. Baseball this year,
right?
You could literally call for a replay review as the player, not even as the coach. If you throw a pitch and it looks very, very outside and the ref's like, "Oh yeah, nah, that's a strike." You do your little hand wave and I think you get like 4 of them a game or something like that. And they check on replay and it's less than 5 minutes and they're like, "Okay, yeah, that's where it was. You're safe," or it's a strike, right? Yeah. Every sport's trying to implement a little bit of technology to try to correct human error, which, like it or not, if we want the correct results, everybody loves the fun of like that error at times, but we want the correct results. Yeah. If I go back and watch the camera and you're rubbing your eye from an eye poke and it's the wrong eye, but you're claiming it's wrong, it's an eye poke, I can run the cameras back and be like, that wasn't an eye poke, and I'm going to give you a penalty for trying to fake me out. Or I could be like, okay, you misunderstood, leave it alone. Or if I go back and catch it and you did eye poke, 1 point removed. I don't care about severity. I don't care how much it hurt. I don't care about none of that. It's a penalty. Because I think that's one of the issues too, right? Like, oh, that didn't hurt that much, so do I really take the point away? Yeah. Like, you look at the Cody Garbrandt fight, he threw up. There's like, all right, yeah, we got to do something here, right? But because Kevin Big Mouth Holland is walking around like, ouch, bro, why you hit me? They're like, you got to be fine, right? So no point deduction. Yeah. It's crazy. It's a point deduction. It's crazy. So we got to fix this. Shouts out to Bahamondes for being just a warrior in there again after everything he went through in that exchange. Yeah. I still like him on the come up. I'll be watching Messiah fights now with a little bit of a extra bit of, I hope he gets got. Not to be mean, but like that's who clear fouls there, man. Yeah. I hope I just see a little bit of, again, retribution. I talked about the Gregory Rodriguez knockout of, it doesn't always have to be a negative, but I like to see people get their get back sometimes when I feel like, And in this moment, you're getting outworked and you pulled. Not only like, oh, I grabbed the fence, my fingers kind of interlocked it.
Yeah.
You had a full grip and we saw the fence getting pulled off the cage.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's a spot where you can say, well, because what are you supposed to do? Your hands are here. They say keep them flat or keep them in a fist, but your hands are flat and you start getting pulled and your fingers might get like you can see
you're human. You're not going to just get pulled off the,
but that's different than grabbing the fence. And it should be very little leeway given there.
I agree.
Very
I think there's a little bit
little
too much
leeway.
given here and it cost somebody a fight.
I think so too.
But the UFC is smart about making matchups anyway. Like, if we're being honest, a lot of this doesn't even matter. Like, if Dana goes, I think Bahamondes would have won that, he might fight up after this loss. Like, it doesn't matter. So I hope they do the right thing by Bahamondes on this one. Now, Terrence McKinney, Kyle Nelson. There's a few athletes in my time that I've had fun being fans of. I don't know how big of a basketball fan you are, but Brandon Jennings was one of my favorite players coming up. And it's not because of playing the game the right way. I feel like he just went for broke all the time, right? Yeah. In his 7th game as a rookie, he scored 55 points. Broke Wilt Chamberlain's record of quickest to score 50 points in their NBA career. Was out of the league in like 3 years. Burnt out really fast, right? He was like a flash in the pan guy where like he has all the skill, all the talent, but he's not always going to like execute the right way. I feel like Terrence McKinney is who I would want to be if I was a UFC fighter. Because I'm in there to get in and get out.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take that much damage. So if you hurt me, fight's over. Right. But if I hurt you, I'm going for that hurt immediately. I'm not trying to fight a 3-round grinder. I'm not trying to look like... I just saw what Ignacio Bahamondes went through in front of me. I see this ring covered in blood. We're not doing this. I'm getting you out of here before there's any cuts, bruises, or anything like that. Yeah. So we talked about the patience he said he was going to practice. We talked about the lack of, I guess, I don't want to say lack of wrestling, but lack of leaning into tactics when things start not going his way.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about that.
No, not at all.
He had a little bit of a slippy through a head kick, Kyle Nelson. As soon as I saw Kyle Nelson hit the mat, I'm like, yeah, that's it.
He blocked that kick too.
Yeah, but it probably came through with some force.
It does. Yeah.
If you block a baseball bat with your arms and it still so much catches your head, like,
well, with anything, when they get their arm up there, sorry, I was not my headphones. When they get their arm up there, you still feel it. You still feel it. It ricochets through that. It lessens it, but you still feel it. But
you do.
Even with the block, just right down to the ground. It was so fast.
I know.
I loved it. And with Terrence McKinney, sometimes he's on the, sometimes he's the bat and sometimes he's the bug or the ball. But got my analogies mixed up. That he was the bat, and there's not much to say about it except great win in front of a hometown crowd and give him somebody.
I just need to see him against every time they jump him. Like, obviously, I think it wasn't his last fight, but he got Chris Duncan and he blitzed him. He blitzed Chris Duncan, and Duncan was in trouble, but he was durable enough to where once McKinney unloaded the clip, like, that's all she wrote. Duncan was able to take over and get that finish. I feel like we need to find that middle ground where McKinney knows, okay, I'm going to give this guy what I do in the first 15 seconds, right? But what's the adjustment once that doesn't work?
Yeah.
How do I play at distance? How do I use my speed and agility to fight these rounds out when I can't just aim with the explosive athleticism and get a finish, right? How do I utilize this explosive athleticism to get me points, to get potential knockdowns, to probably get on the back or something? Because he's not bad as a grappler either. But as long as he's able to do this to people who are lesser comp to him, he'll be in the UFC for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could get me what's also a crazy stat? No performance bonuses his entire career.
Did he get one the other night?
Nope.
I bet.
Did not get one for this fight.
I bet they're just keeping that as a running joke now. I bet you Dana's giving him money under the table or something to be like, hey, we're just going to keep this no performance bonus. His pay's got to be elevated in some way, but he's not getting performance bonuses from this. And in my humble opinion, though, I wouldn't have given him knockout of the night either if you're only giving one
Yeah.
bonus.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and it's like he got put on the wrong card, obviously,
Yeah,
right?
because there's
But
another one.
like there's some other ones on here where you're like, oh my gosh. But like to finish a fight in 20 seconds, you should be getting something.
Yeah.
You know? And granted, I don't think Kyle Nelson was like overwhelmingly hurt. A lot of those punches were like, you know, on a wrap up
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But like I have questions.
Yeah.
You finish a fight that quickly, there should be some kind of bonus.
You would think that there would be, especially when some fight nights they're giving multiple bonuses.
That's what I'm saying. Like there should be a first round finish bonus.
Yeah,
or
I
something.
like that.
There should be something like that.
I like that. Finish.
That's impressive.
Finish in the first round. Yeah, definitely.
Most times that's impressive, right? So I don't know. Kudos to Terrence McKinney for getting that win.
Definitely. Excited to see who he goes against.
It gets him back on track. Yeah, it gets him back on track. I'm sure there's some exciting fights down at lightweight there for him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who to put him against.
I like a mild step up. I don't want a big jump up because a big jump up is what he's gotten in the past, I feel like. And he, probably needs a step up, but a slight step up, and just kind of build him up that way as he's developing more. Because I think long term, that development is going to play into him being a better fighter long term and a better product for the UFC to put out there. If you jump him up again, like, yeah, he could set the world on fire, and maybe he's there, but we don't know that yet. In past,
it's not a certainty.
Yeah.
I agree. I think you take it slow with him, honestly. Honestly, I have a fight for him.
Who's that?
It's not a slow one, though. I think it's another opportunity for him to possibly make a big win. It's Lance Gibson Jr.
Is that really a step up?
That might be a step down. That might be a step down. I just want to see him finish somebody. Hey, give him Tafik Masayev.
Hold up. Are they? Yeah.
Yep, they both lightweights.
I like that.
Give him Tafik Masayev.
I was thinking Tariq might be a I thought Bahamondes was a featherweight for some reason. So I just assumed that was a featherweight fight. Yeah, give him Tariq or Tofik.
Tofik Masayev. Yeah, that's my pick.
Mm-hmm.
I am very excited about this next one.
Yeah.
Yusri Belgaroy. Yusri.
Yusri is what they were saying too during the fight.
Yeah, Yusri.
Yeah.
You know his history, I'm sure, because you're a fight fan like that. But
hey, he was a kickboxer.
Glory kickboxer. Was in there against Pereira. He was in the realm of the Pereira and the Adesanya age.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed there a little bit longer. 6'7".
Yeah.
Right. Kickboxer with elite striking. I am confused as to how he makes 185 because he is large,
bro. I mean, you got to think he was fighting Adesanya, he was fighting Pereira, and I mean both of them were middleweights. Pereira,
that's
of course, a little bit bigger.
That's
but
true.
He's not small.
How did Pereira make 185?
Dude, I was wondering how Abdul Malik made 185. That dude's thick.
Their 185s look a lot different than my 185s.
Of course, yeah.
Their 185s look a lot different than my 185s. If I made 185, I would look very different than how they looked.
Yeah.
185.
Well, and I was telling my son because he was like, they showed Demetrius Johnson getting into the Hall of Fame, and I was like, he's like 125 pounds. He's like 125 pounds. Okay, so he was 125 pounds for about 20 minutes. Let me tell you how this works.
Let's explain to you.
He is not walking
why
around.
His liver probably is taking a beating.
Yeah, so
because of how he. Yeah,
I mean these guys are in the same thing, but 6'7" middleweight is big, and I know he's thin, but he is on.
He swells back up to like 220 at least, or 225 or 230 by fight night.
I don't know about that. I don't know that he's the size Pereira is.
I'm leaning with he's probably close, but in some capacity. I know Mansour is definitely bigger than 185. When he's in there.
Yeah, no. I would say he's probably Yusri's probably about 210.
Okay.
When he goes in,
yeah,
but maybe not 220. 220's a little bit extra. I mean, it's all a little
You're
bit
the wrestler
extra.
weight cutter, so
Well,
I'm just the
now,
punchy dude. I can't tell you weights very well, so
I mean, it depends because some people
carry their weight well.
carry their weight different. Yeah.
Hmm.
And you'll see people that don't look like they should weigh something that they do,
That's a fact.
and sometimes it's hard to tell with athletes because some people will put like different things out in their bio where they don't really weigh what they say they weigh.
Hmm.
And then of course you have the wrestlers who are cutting weight, and some people do carry weight different, and so you'll see big guys that are able to make those lower weights just because the way they carry it is, they look a lot bigger than what they weigh. Maybe there's not as much fat in there, maybe there's not as much muscle in there, and just
That's
the
true. Yeah.
distribution is different. They say muscle weighs more than fat, um, but you can't see inside of somebody to see like what their distribution is. So like that's why you get so many different bodies. You get DC weighing in at 205 at like 5'11", and John Jones weighing in at 205 at 6'4". Um, and the height difference, but the weight difference in there, like how can Cormier at 5'11" and how can Mike Tyson at like 5'11" fight with guys 6'4", 6'5", weighing 250 pounds, you know? But
Yeah.
they've got that. They're they're just heavier people. Their weight distribution's a little bit different. Muscle fibers, people have different muscle fibers. Some people with type 2, type 1. Um, all that stuff makes a difference.
No, for
And
sure.
it's hard to tell, but when a guy's 6'7" weighing in at 185, he's probably not 185 when he steps in there. And I don't know how kickboxing,
Definitely not.
boxing and kickboxing, I don't know how they cut weight like that. I don't know if theirs is as strenuous as wrestlers are, because there's wrestlers that start the season, but see in wrestling, you've got to maintain that weight throughout the season. So I don't know how they do. Sometimes you're weighing in the day of your meet.
Hmm.
In high school, you are every time. So when you wrestle 132 pounds, you weighed in that morning or that afternoon at 132 pounds, and you went out a half hour later and wrestled. You're not weighing in the day before. And you've got 30, 40, 50 matches sometimes now that these kids are going to, and you're weighing in before every one. So it's like, okay, 132 is, you're cutting down to 132 and holding it for a while. Um, that's
I
why,
know boxing has different things
so
depending on how high of a level. You have rehydration clauses and stuff like
yeah.
that. So you could go in and be like, hey, if we're cutting to this weight, we're not going back up after we cut to this weight.
Yeah, I heard they did that.
Um,
The last, not the last big one, they've had some big ones. Crawford,
yeah, it was Ryan. Well,
Canelo.
I didn't know Crawford had it
I
in the
th- I think
Canelo
he
Crawford
I
contract.
think there was something about Canelo not being able to rehydrate as
It
using
makes sense
certain
because that's part of his. Yeah,
yeah, certain technique. It might have just been certain techniques, but I thought that's what it was, that they put a rehydration clause in there. And didn't
I know
you were mentioning Ryan?
Ryan did that with Tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, where there
So,
was no rehydration clause.
hmm
I mean, it was a rehydration clause where they
yeah,
didn't want him to go back up. They didn't want Ryan to go back up.
yeah,
Um, but usually with Mansour on short notice, we knew he would be at a striking advantage. I know the worry
hmm
was about him getting taken down to the mat. Great takedown defense. I
yeah,
think him being a part of that Teixeira camp with
hmm
Pereira now, he implemented a lot of that like large looming stance where he plants his feet, kind of leans back
hmm
and sits his hip forward, but he's against the
yeah,
cage. And it made for Mansour not being able to do much. And again, the American wrestler's skill set usually was able to tee off a little bit on the
hmm
body and work
yeah,
even the side of the head a little bit in those grapplings. Not really exchanges, but him entering, um, trying to get takedowns. Even the successful takedowns that Mansour got, especially later in the fight, were of little or no consequence because he'd already been hurt on the feet so much.
hmm
It wasn't always knockdowns, but um, stinging shots to the body, stinging shots to the head, knees, very, very well calculated and technical
yeah.
knees.
Oh man, when those knees
Um,
were good.
the striking looked crisp, and this is a 6'6" guy I'm excited to see fight
Yeah.
more. Um, 6'6", 6'7". I'm gonna go with 6'7". Um, I'm excited for his future in the middleweight
Yeah.
division.
I
I think there's some fights out there for him.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I'm hearing from other analysts in the sport, right? I say analysts, but they're guys that do what we do.
Mhm.
Other people in the sport that talk about potential matchups would love to see the storyline of him getting to fight Izzy in the UFC. Um, if I'm Izzy, I want no parts of boosting a glory kickboxer's profile anymore. um, but I understand the logic. Me personally, if Rainier wasn't going up to light heavyweight like he
Yeah.
said he was, give DeRitter usury.
Yeah.
Um, I want to see him up there and in a hurry, man. I think it could really be a problem once he gets to the top. I think the loser of Brendan Allen Shabizan should be able to fight him. I think
Yeah.
the Anthony Hernandezes of the world could fight him.
Mhm.
Even though it'd be really a tough run for Anthony Hernandez, you're a fight away from the title, and now you're fighting up and comers. But so is the game, right? Um, yeah, I wouldn't even be mad at like nah, Imavov got to stay up there. I'm trying to think who else I would put him
I
against.
I mean, if I'm honest with you, probably 8 through 11, I feel like he could
Yeah.
take. That's Rainier DeRitter, Israel Adesanya, Robert Whitaker, Jared Cannonier. I don't
Hmm.
think any of them want that fight, but I think that
They
fight
don't.
makes sense because I feel like at this point in all of their careers, they're in that spot where they're the gatekeeper to the upper echelon. And somebody like Christian Leroy Duncan to fight another up and comer when he just made the top 15, maybe not
Yeah.
so, but Paulo Costa, Roman Dolidze, Gregory Rodriguez is, like they're all, um,
Paulo's going up to light heavyweight too, which doesn't help.
yeah. So if they're all going up, clear the way, give this man one of those four that I just mentioned. I'm not big on Israel Adesanya having to do it. I know a lot of people are calling for that. Um,
Hmm.
if Rainier to Ritter's going up, that's one spot up. I mean, this guy could find himself a top 15 fighter in the next fight he does. And I could see it.
Yeah, Whitaker's falling out to go light heavyweight. Paulo
Hmm.
Costa is. Rainier DeRitter is. Guys are clearing it out for
Yeah.
him inadvertently.
And
So
unfortunately for Jared Cannonier, you know, probably tail into his career, he's probably not
hmm
getting a jump up in competition very much. He's probably getting a spot down. So he might be the next person to go against him. You could put him there or,
you're not wrong.
Roman Dolidze. I would say those two. And Dolidze just fought. Um,
No, he has a fight coming up.
Dolidze? No, he just
Unless
fought.
it already happened. Who did he fight?
He fought in a pretty exciting fight against Leroy Duncan.
Oh yeah. My bad. Yeah, I didn't. We didn't cover that one, so I
No, we
forgot.
didn't. And
I thought that one was coming up.
can,
Yeah.
can I say this about Roman Dolidze? He
Yeah.
lost that fight. And if he is going to keep that style of fighting, I will watch every fight he is in. I mean, he was exciting in that fight, and I'm not usually one who's like, "Oh yeah, Roman Dolidze is going to have an exciting fight." He
I mean,
was
he's had some good ones on the way up.
he had some good ones on the way up, but he was very active. He wasn't always making the best decision, but it was fun to watch him. Even though he lost, I would watch him fight in his next few, and I'm never one that's like, "Oh yeah, let's go watch Roman Dolidze fight." He's usually a pretty
I
boring
get it.
fighter. He wasn't in that fight, and though he didn't win, I enjoyed watching the fight more than I watched him when he won fights. So he just needs to develop that style and keep that style going. If he can develop into it and figure out some ways to win with it, I think he's got something.
We might have a problem. Okay.
But we'll see.
I could get on board with it. I could get on board with it. Yeah, usury. I'm okay with a Cannoneer fight. I know they have our boy. I call him our boy, but not really our boy anymore. MVP bouncing between welter and middleweight, if I'm not mistaken. Um, that could be a potential play too, depending where he lands in the middleweight rankings.
Right.
Um, it'll be a big name for MVP and a big name for Usry. I think it'll be kind of even for both guys. And I think Usry would be able to keep it exciting enough where we wouldn't be very, very disappointed by the fight. So, shoot, Shara Bullet, isn't he up there in middleweight?
Yeah, that would be a good one. Yeah,
I would do that too.
I don't
I
think
would do that too.
and I don't think he's ranked.
Yeah, I would do that one too. But I mean, he's ranked in our hearts. I feel like Shara Bullet's one of those guys where he's not ranked, but everybody sees him as one of those ones just because of, again, the storyline, the name, the blindness, like, you know, yeah.
And he is more of a striker, but
I'd be with you.
I don't know that you go against this guy with one eye. I mean,
I don't think so either, but I've also heard Shara should fight Adesanya. And
I mean,
we'll get into fights for Adesanya later, but I feel like it's a lot of the same issues. The only issue is the type of Adesanya we're seeing these days.
Yeah.
Again, let me not give away too much. We'll talk about that once we get there.
Yeah.
This is one of your new favorite fighters, Larry Ann Douglas versus Julian Erosa. Featherweight has some fun ones, man.
Yeah.
Featherweight has some fun guys, but this one was writing on the wall too. I was a little bit hesitant with him coming off of the Contender Series. How that, you can do a lot of things in those arenas that when you get to the UFC isn't really replicatable.
Right.
He replicated it.
Yeah.
He actually did it better against Julian Erosa.
Yeah.
To see a guy sit down on the jab firm and throw it with force and just like somebody hit the other dude with a baseball bat. He's stumbling backwards, bouncing off of the cage, and it's almost like a ping pong paddle. Or what's it called? The one that has a little string on it? Is it ping pong?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I know what you're talking about. It's not ping pong, but it's like a ping pong paddle with the string on. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. So he jabs him, he bounces off the fence, comes back into range, he jabs him again, he bounces off the fence, right? And just the image of a guy like not knowing what to do with the jab. And then Douglas like realizing in real time, okay, clearly I see where this is going. Yeah. I don't think there's a recovery coming. And he just plants and just starts wailing.
Yeah.
Techniques, combos till he gets him out of there. Amazing to watch. Did I learn much from it? I learned that he's a heavy puncher. I learned that jab is brutal when he decides to sit down on it. I don't know what the takedown defense is going to be yet. I don't know what his movement's like yet because, again, didn't get to see too much of that. I know that I'm excited to see him fight again. I want to see him fight somebody who will challenge him a little bit more in terms of what's coming back. But I'm excited based on that initial run. What says you? I know you said I like this guy, so tell me why.
All right. He's got the power in his hands right there. Again, everything you just said, I could echo that as well. I don't know what his takedown defense is. I don't know how good he is with jiu-jitsu. I don't know what his submission game is. I have never in my life seen somebody throw 3 jabs in. I've seen it with one. I've seen a knockout with one jab. But throws the jab, wobbles the guy. Throws the jab, wobbles the guy. Throws the jab, wobbles the guy. And that was not the first time he was wobbled. This guy was hurt earlier in the fight. And he just stayed patient. It's like he knew what he had in his hands. And he knew that he was wobbling the guy and knew that it was just a matter of time. Or at least he took that gamble on himself that it was just a matter of time. He didn't overcommit. But never in my life have I seen somebody throw a jab and wobble the guy 3 times straight. That was the punch combination. Jab, jab, jab. And it was wobble, wobble, wobble. And then he knocked him down.
Wobble, wobble.
Yeah. I felt bad for Julian Erosa. But
it's the nature of the beast.
It's the nature of the beast. I am excited to see Douglas go in there. I'm excited to see who he has next. I want to see him tested.
I got to test Vallejos. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, eventually, maybe.
You don't waste that fight yet.
No.
Like, even if we think Douglas has deficiencies, you don't waste that fight yet. I think you have so many different angles you could play. If you could get Douglas, Gene Silva, and Vallejos all in the top 5
Oh
without like
yeah,
really blemishing them, that's what you want.
yeah.
You want something like that so that you have like puzzle pieces to
Hmm.
fit. You know,
Yeah, you
Gene
don't want
Silva
them to knock each
fights
other down right now.
Douglas. Oh crap. Douglas lost. Now we could go Gene
Yeah,
Silva Vallejos.
but
Vallejos lost. Oh crap. Now we could go Vallejos
yeah,
against Douglas.
the
You want to keep those puzzle pieces.
the beauty of the UFC is that they will make these big fights and won't hold them back from making these fights yet.
Yeah.
Um, we do get a lot of rematches when you get to top 5 because 2 guys fought earlier in their career. So, but I feel
Hmm.
like Vallejos is already up there and on his way up, and they're just on the trajectory. Is Vallejos is up here going up, and he's down here going up. So they're not going to meet
Hmm.
yet until he catches up here. Because once Vallejos gets up there, you stay up there, and then the other guy has a chance to catch up. Um,
1,000%.
so Douglas, it's one fight. Yes, he did it in the Contender Series.
It was a fun fight.
It was a great fight. And I want to see him tested. Let's put him in there against somebody with some different skills and see how he does there.
Hmm.
I honestly don't know if Julian Erosa is more of a puncher or more of a grappler. Um, I haven't
It's one of
seen
those ones
much
where like,
from him,
you know.
but let's get him in there against somebody who can get in for a takedown, and let's really see how Douglas's takedown defense is.
So you're saying let's get Bryce Mitchell back down to featherweight
No. Uh,
and see if we
yes.
could remake that Emmett fight result
Um,
with Douglas.
I mean,
I'm just talking. I'm just throwing.
you
I'm
could
throwing
you
stuff
could put
against. So
Douglas
obviously you don't
against
want to do
Emmett
that.
if you really want to shoot him up there.
Gosh, poor Emmett. Poor Emmett. The one thing I will say is like Vallejos was not in front of Emmett to get hit.
No.
The 45 seconds I watched of Douglas, it was a little bit longer than that, but
Hey.
what I watched of Douglas, he will plant at least and stay in front of you to a certain extent.
Well, and I think that's
I
his
still think
game.
he's too slow. I think it's too slow. Emmett's responses
Yeah.
for that guy, even though he'll plant. But the patience Douglas showed makes me think it would be a very reminiscent fight to that Vallejos Emmett fight.
Yeah.
For Emmett.
But yeah, I don't know who you put him against, but I think a step
Yeah.
up and a different style fighter, somebody who you say, well, we've seen you hit. Let's see if
Yeah.
what you got grappling. And that's what I
I'm
would
with it.
angle to if I'm making that fight. Somebody a little bit higher than him in the rankings, but also somebody that's heavy on the grappling to see if you can stop the takedown.
I'm 1,000% with it. Michael Chiesa, Nico Price.
Yeah.
I will not harp on this one too much. We love Nico Price.
Love Nico Price.
We did not get to preview this fight. Newsflash, I would have picked Nico Price to lose. I know, call me crazy.
Retirement
but I would have picked
fight.
Nico Price to lose.
3 days notice.
I know it was Nico's retirement fight too.
Yeah,
Until
we
you
didn't know.
let me know.
Yeah.
You let me know ahead of time. I don't know if Nico called you or something, but I didn't know this was happening.
Me and Nico go way back.
Go way back.
No,
I know you guys
actually
go way
heard
back.
One of the commentators mentioned that we didn't know. This has always been Michael Chiesa's retirement fight, but Nico said he wanted to come in and get one more in. And he'll actually retire tonight. And I heard him say it when he was walking in the octagon. I was like, Nico's retiring. Oh, and you got to think,
paycheck is what he wanted.
3 days notice.
One more paycheck is what
Probably,
he wanted.
I would guess. I mean, think about it. You're 3 days notice. You're not in a fight camp. So maybe all that fight goes to you. You pay the people that corner you. You don't have to pay the coaches for the training camp. You don't have to pay the extra for whatever else goes along with that, because they have expenses. But if you take it on 3 days fight notice, you're not paying those extra costs, and maybe they give you a hefty little bag because we've got this whole camera reel for Michael Chiesa, and we've got this whole thing, set up for him, and he doesn't have an opponent. We're going to give you the big money to come in and take this. I mean, because you got to think in that 3 days, he's got to fly from Florida to Seattle. He's got to make weight. You're not doing training. All your training's already done. You're in shape or you're not. Like, he says, oh, yeah, I can take that. Let me find a couple people to corner me.
It's sad.
It,
And the reason it's sad is because, like, again, we think of Nico so much more than that based on what we've seen earlier in his career,
yeah,
right? But, like, it comes to the point where I think it's a cash grab type situation a little bit.
yeah,
Because you're not going in there with intentions of, like, how would this benefit my career? I think you've come to terms with where you stand in the echelon of, like, UFC fighters, and it's not at the top. You have your supporters
yeah,
based on, again, a moment that you made that made him go, wow, I love Nico Price. Some of the fights that you had that made him go, wow, I love Nico Price. But it's been a consistent, just like, second thought as to how it'll impact the next fight
yeah,
or what comes up
yeah,
next. And I get it. Maybe he knows himself and he's like, look, I think I find out where I plateaued skill wise and I'm not going to cross a certain threshold. I could be there. I could be in there to mix it up with new guys. And okay, I don't necessarily like that. At least let me get a couple against guys who have reputable names. Let me be Robbie Lawler's last fight. Maybe Michael Chiesa's last fight.
yeah,
Maybe he's doing it for different reasons, but it just seems to me like he's just in there for the why not? Let me get
right.
paid, and I don't see this. I don't see myself winning, and I don't want to say that about a fighter, but that's what it just seems like to me.
Mm.
Whoever's managing, there's some level of mismanagement if you're actually aiming for him to win a fight.
Yeah.
You know,
I think one thing
I don't know.
I saw, something I saw from him that, and I could be completely off from this, but I noticed in his fight against Jacoby Smith, it's going to sound really weird, but
Yeah.
when you look at him,
Hmm.
he seems to have wide hips.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so much of wrestling and jujitsu depends on your hips and how well you can switch your hips and move your hips and get your hips in the right position. And I feel like where he has fallen off, at least in a spot of his game, I'm not saying this is the reason, I feel like that's what, and I felt it out there doing jujitsu. Like when you come back to it after a layoff, your
Hmm.
body doesn't move as fast as you wanted it to move. You don't, you can't get into the position you need to get into, you want to get into, and because you don't have, those muscles have fallen off some. So like when he gets in a spot where he's got to switch from his hips being flat to his hips
Hmm.
turning, I feel like that has um slowed for him. Kind of like Izzy. We'll get into some of Izzy not being quite as fast. I feel like that movement where you can switch your hips and get into a different position fast. I saw it in the Jacoby Smith where the speed advantage was so different in the grappling. And part of it was he couldn't switch his hips, which in turn switch your legs to get into the position you need to. He couldn't get there fast enough. Um, and I feel like that's kind of hurt him in a couple of fights, and in this fight, I feel like that hurt him as well. He knew where to go, he knew how to get there. His body just wasn't able to get there, and maybe it happened a little younger for him. He's only 36. He was the younger fighter here by 2 years. He did not look it, and that could be because he didn't get a camp. But it also could be,
He's had some pretty bad injuries too.
yeah,
Like,
it could be that his body just couldn't get there where he needed it to get to, where he wanted to. Um, and with
I do
smaller
feel a little bit
hips,
bad about his.
you can
Yeah,
switch
but
them a
go
little
ahead. Smaller
faster.
hips.
You don't necessarily have the velocity, because once it's like a big gear moving, versus a small gear moving, right?
So you're
So,
saying smaller hips are able to lie, and unfortunately, our boy Nico Price's situation, his hips don't lie.
right.
They give everything away.
Yeah.
So
Um, that's right. That's right. Um,
Nico Price's hips don't lie is what I learned
yeah.
today.
I mean, here, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he has trouble. He seemed to have trouble against Jacoby Smith, um, hip heisting to the position he needed to get to. And then the other night with Chiesa, I noticed he was slow on that. And it's not that he
Yeah.
didn't know what he needed to do. It's not that
He
he
just couldn't do
didn't
it.
have the ability to do it necessarily, but having the ability and getting it done in the time it took to get it done, it was too slow. And I feel like that's a spot where his game has broken down, where it didn't used to be that way. When you're young, you can do that and you can move and you can, recover fast and get back to the it out of danger and get out of the places. And he just has not shown in the past few fights that he's able to get out of that danger zone fast enough. And usually I feel like that originates in the hips. And for him, I feel like that has fallen off from what I've seen. And I'm not going to say it's the whole reason. Maybe getting into camp and getting that, ability back is something he could do if he wanted to. But I'm always in the camp that a fighter fights as long as they want to fight. And if he wants to be done, that's fine. If he wants to keep fighting another 5 years, that's up to him. That's his choice. If you want to compete in the UFC, though, um, there's either a whole lot of work to do or you have to come to grips with where you're at. And I kind of feel like he knows where he's at. So,
I hope for his sake. I mean, I think unfortunately for him, there was a little bit of lack of self awareness, or not lack of self awareness, but he felt like he was loved a little bit more by the UFC because he stood in that octagon expecting some kind of interview or something because he was retiring and it never came.
yeah. Now, I walked out of
And
the
I know it was
room
Chiesa's
after that and I didn't
moment,
watch the
but like,
Chiesa thing. So I didn't
yeah.
know that that happened until afterwards. I did start seeing reports that he stood there waiting and nobody came to talk to him.
Have you watched the NBA
I don't watch a lot of
at all?
basketball. Um,
When Paul Pierce was retiring, I think it was a year or two after Kobe Bryant retired.
mhm.
He was essentially doing his farewell tour, right?
Yeah.
They knew this was his last year. He was with the Clippers. He was just riding the bench. And he was talking smack with Draymond Green, who's a player for the Warriors. And Draymond looks over at him and he's like, they don't love you like that.
Mm,
You're here doing this farewell tour, doing all this stuff. Nobody cares about you. They don't love you,
mm.
which is pretty aggressive trash talk, right?
Yeah.
But like, that's what came into my mind when I
Oh,
saw Nico in there. I was like, he had the gloves off before Chiesa. He's looking around like, okay, where do I stand? And it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit because I
mm.
mean, obviously I'm a Nico Price fan, but like,
You
there's
feel
also a
like
little bit
they
of like, we probably should have announced this after the Chiesa thing because granted, Chiesa didn't achieve that much in his career either. He's just kind of like a UFC darling based on like good fights,
Yeah. I
good
th
wins,
I think he gets it.
being ranked,
Yeah.
you know. But like, if Chiesa doesn't go into that second career of being on the table as often as he is and
Yeah.
working with the UFC, I don't think he gets this moment to this effect.
So let me throw something out there because I have to be honest about this. I mean, I don't have to be, but um, I didn't watch Chiesa on The Ultimate Fighter. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't watch him coming up. I wasn't, and this is not to down him at all, but I didn't have that emotional attachment to him, having watched him on the
Mm-hmm.
show go through everything he went through, which was a lot. Like, I didn't even know that backstory even happened until the other night because I wasn't watching MMA very much at the time when he was coming up. I'd watched it before that and I jumped on after that. But like when I watched him, um, he was a good fighter, um, but he wasn't someone that was I ever really thought was vying for the title. Um, and while he was good, and he had some good jujitsu and he had good technique and he got on the mic and he seems to be pretty good at that. Um, I was a little bit, I got it after I um, heard about some of the things, I saw a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of the montage, but then I walked away from it. So I kind of got it with that because I feel like he, he gave something to the company by having that emotional story and
Yeah.
coming up like he did and persevere
Yeah.
in what he did. And he
Mm-hmm.
did it in a manner that was caught on camera that the UFC capitalized on. Um, no sugarcoating that. The UFC capitalized on the pain he went through. And of course, that helped him in turn, I guess. But,
Be a
he
name.
yeah, he did do some good things and he's still working for him and stuff like that. And I feel like on the flip side, Nico didn't have that story coming up. He gave him some highlights. Um, he was more of a utility knife for them
Yeah.
as opposed to something that they were going to market.
100%. I
And
agree.
I feel like the utility, when the job's done, as opposed to something you can continue to market. And I feel like they still consider Chiesa marketable, even as a, somebody who's still going to be there. So, but I didn't understand why he was getting a big thing for um for retirement.
I think you make a good point with the marketing aspect, because you think of some of the farewell tours we've gotten recently. Because Korean Zombie, obviously, he helped build the
Mhm.
UFC as a sport on that side of the world, right?
Yeah,
But if you think about Korean Zombie, I said the highlights, and again, what he's done for fighting in that area, what has he really done in his career to get a farewell tour? Pretty
yeah,
much the entire card built around him getting sent off, right?
yeah.
Unfortunately, he got the pleasure of, was it Holloway on short notice
Mm,
to
yeah.
give him the send off. That is not what he was looking for, but that's what he got.
And he continues to send fighters into the UFC. He's got a
That's
promotion
what I'm
over
saying.
there.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
got his own promotion, and they come over there and they do fights like an
Hmm.
Apex version fight thing over
Yeah.
there. So it makes sense as to why the UFC would graciously give him that kind of send off when Holloway's day comes. He
Hmm.
doesn't want that, but he will probably get a version of that
Yeah.
if they come to him with UFC Hawaii. I don't think he could say no.
No.
Chiesa gets that send off again. DC called it before having a send off, but DC would have gotten a send off. Um,
Yeah.
John Jones, for everything that's wrong with John Jones as a person. Don't want to say what's wrong, but I mean,
Yeah.
he's not a great person. Um, if he was to come back and try to implement a send off fight and is willing to take a dollar amount that he's not happy with, that the
Yep.
UFC is happy with, they'd give him a send off again for all the trouble he caused for the UFC
Yeah.
and himself. It's just interesting to see again the utility guys who made, moments on both sides of the fence,
Yeah.
either being knocked out or knocking out the person, stepping in on
Yeah.
such short notice, being there, being a company man, and not necessarily getting that love. I
Yeah.
feel like you put the Nico Prices of the world kind of in the Johnny Walker space, where
Hmm.
he had a run like that,
Yeah.
where he could beat anybody on any night, but at the same time, he's going out at any time.
Yeah.
And the UFC just appreciated that aspect of his game. But that was it. You were never one of those guys.
Yeah.
As Draymond Green said, they don't love you like that, man. You're not getting your farewell tour.
It's
And he didn't see that. But you're always going to be one of my favorite fighters, Nico
oh,
Price.
he
And
always will. And I hope he
years after,
does coaching or something. Stays
I hope
or
he corners someone. I hope he, even if it's just to be in there to kind of hype him up. I don't know what his coaching aspect would be,
yeah,
but
I don't know.
I'd like to see him
Or do
in
whatever he wants
some.
to do to make him happy.
No, for sure. I'd like to see him happy. I think, again, he created moments for me early in the MMA game when I
Hmm.
was getting into it, where I was like, this is a fun sport
Yeah.
because something like this could happen in there when
Hmm.
people are in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he would have been if he didn't get severely hurt and had to be out for a little bit.
Hmm.
But I know I have my Nico Price trading card still, and I might
Yep.
still go get it graded just for the vibes because he's one of my favorite guys.
Yeah.
I'm holding some sports cards that have a little monetary value, but have quite a bit of sentimental one. And
Yeah.
and the Nico Price one is definitely one, especially for this podcast
Yeah.
that I'll enjoy having.
And that's something, the thing with this and with sports in general, like a lot of people, they focus on the superstars,
Mm-hmm.
but there are other people out there who are exciting and people get excited to watch and they never get the publicity. And he's one of those guys who, like, you just love to see him go in and fight. Um,
Yeah.
if he would have held out for one more, if he'd have said, you know what, I'll do this one fight if you'll let me get a retirement fight in Florida or whatever, he could have done
Mm-hmm.
something like that. He didn't, and we don't know why he didn't. But it
He
is,
could have been transparent and been like, I'm probably gonna lose. Let's be honest here. And if I lose, Kies has never had a knockout in his career, so it most likely won't be like that.
mm,
All right. Get me on the end of that Miami card.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Find me somebody on the end of that Miami card. I'll fight anybody. If you have a bouncer who's trying to start a career
Bro,
for the UFC
put me
at
on
that card,
next
give me
week in
somebody
Miami,
on there.
dude.
Just get me out there. Get me to Miami
Hmm.
to retire. Obviously I'm probably not gonna have all the frills and stuff, but let that moment be about me. And even if I go out there and lose to the bouncer,
Yeah.
I lost my last fight in Florida. I'm able to have my kids there, my
Yeah.
family there, because it's not a far commute. One last paycheck.
Yeah.
One last farewell, right?
And then you turn the one last one into two maybe, but
there's another avenue, and we haven't talked about it yet, and we won't talk about it on this pod. We'll do a different pod about it. But MVP is going to swoop up a lot of these vets, and they're going to put them into interesting fights on fight cards, I feel like. And I think that's also a narrative we haven't really explored is they'll be able to leave and fight for more money on these cards, these Netflix cards, because Netflix has a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? So I wouldn't be surprised to see a Nico Price on the back end of an MVP card. Or
that would be interesting.
Our boy Adesanya has 2 fights left in his career. I think he's a big enough draw to still go over there and fight some cans that they'll have. There's avenues for these guys, and we'll have a whole pod about it. But I don't think this will be the last we see of Nico Price, just based on how he's taking these last few fights. But something tells me different promotion.
Hey,
that's what something tells me. So, next one. I have called Weili and Joanna my favorite women's fight of all time.
Ooh.
I have. And I think it's still up there based on the length and the execution and how much quality I have in a long term. But if you're telling me to pick a moment that could probably reset women's MMA interest for the better, right? Since we've started the Paramount era, it's been lackluster. People have been vying for them to be off of the cards. Not even in a disrespectful manner. We love women over here at Art of MMA.
Yeah.
We love women over here. Girl dads.
Yeah.
Over here, right? But the moment Grasso just did might have changed history for women's MMA. And I don't think I'm being hyperbolic. That knockout, that 3-2, as they say, down the pipe. The Macy Barber's execution of going to sleep. No offense, Macy, right? But how it looks also is impactful. To be spun by punches. And then for Grasso, not to step back and be like, but just a killer instinct, almost like SEAL Team 6 style, where it's like the job's not over. She's down. She's like, it's not over yet. I'm a pounce and rear naked choke a dead body, right? Like, my goodness. And we didn't have a preview, and obviously I could say I had Grasso. I actually had Grasso, believe me or not. I thought Grasso was a good value at plus money. I'm a dabbler. But outside of that, I felt like she's been fighting at the top end of the division compared to Macy Barber. I feel like I told that to somebody off camera.
I feel like somebody remembers that.
Yes, right? Yeah. I didn't see going like this, though.
No. I was going to pick Grasso, and I was in the middle of picking when the fight started, and it nixed it, and I couldn't. Everything went suspended. I waited too long. I was going to put Grasso by decision because I thought she was...
Saved you some money.
Yeah, it did. It did.
It did, because, man... At least you weren't holding a Terrence McKinney by decision card like I was.
Look.
But, yes. She looked way better on the feet. I know Macy Barber was really leaning into wanting to, right that loss and show that she's fully back 7 fights in a row. Great run, but that was always not her path to victory. And I think, unfortunately for Macy Barber, she wouldn't have had a strong grappling advantage over Alexa Grasso as well. So where's the advantage?
Yeah.
It comes to the point where, like, you're not tremendously better.
I wonder if this was a momentum thing. With
1,000%.
That they were going for. And, to Macy Barber's credit, she had an issue that she had to overcome. There was a health issue that she was overcoming, and she did. And now she looked a lot better going in there.
Yes.
I don't think anybody saw this fight go in the way that it did.
No.
Alexa Grasso was spun her with that punch, and she was out. Even she didn't look out. She looked like she was still with it. Her mind was still
She looked
probably
out to me.
unconsciously going. Um, but when she got yanked back with her tongue sticking out like that, that was the execution that you want to teach your people to have when you're a coach. You want to see somebody execute those techniques in that manner on fight day every time. And she was a coach's dream the other night. She she yanked her back so fast. I thought she was dead.
Half the
She
world did.
listen, this I hate this for Macy Barber because she is going to have to endure seeing that highlight over and over and over
She talked about it. Yeah.
for a very long time, and her
Hmm.
kids are going to see it, or her family's going to see it, or everybody's going to see it. But you know what? Everybody doesn't get in there like she gets in there. Everybody doesn't put themselves on the line like she puts herself on the line. And it does come with the territory for that, but you got to
Hmm.
feel a little bad because that is the perfect, like you were saying, marketing tool for women's MMA. Alexa Grasso knocking her out and yanking her back in that choke, and then her just lying in the I mean, that was she couldn't have been the more perfect like person knocked out, like
Hmm.
camera and everything. Like, I mean, she gave you everything if you're the UFC to use for highlights to come for someone
She
just
did.
flat out knocked out. She made the
Hmm.
perfect knocked out person there. And you
She
don't
made
want
the
to be
perfect knock.
like,
She
I
did.
was the best at being knocked out, you know? And but name
I
one
mean,
that
there's few people that could compete with her. Ben Askren.
I mean, yeah, but Ben Askren wasn't laying
No,
there
he.
eyes open staring at the camera
No, she
making
was doing, but she was breathing.
she
We
was
we had the
breathing
question of Ben
and that
Askren was
was
breathing.
I
He
mean,
he went. He Ben Askren and Bryce Mitchell give it a run for its money because when they landed almost like a
yeah,
cocooned caterpillar waiting to bloom,
but
right?
they were cocooned. She was arms out,
Out, yeah,
legs
looking up at the
down,
camera. The camera.
looking straight
Side note:
off to the side. That was perfect
I don't
shot
know
for
if
the
the camera
cameraman.
guys hate them or like. I
Give
don't know if
that
they
man a
hate her or
bonus.
like her.
Give him a
The camera
bonus.
guy, I think the camera guy hates her because if I see somebody in that moment, I'm not zooming in on the face, angling it towards to see if she's like, okay, how can I make it look like she's looking at me? Right? Like they
That
were
he
so
had
focused on
the
getting the
perfect
shot.
camera shot. And
Yeah.
they go in there with the ladies go in there with makeup on and she had everything was done up just perfect. And she looked like she had just been done up for the camera to be in that position, laid out,
Hmm.
looking at the
Like
camera.
American Top Model style
And
almost.
the camera was just it looked like a show where you see a dead body and they're just
Yeah.
staring aimlessly into the camera because they're not actually looking at anything. And that's what it looked like. She oh and
Before we move on to Adesanya, I have a question for you.
yes,
People said she played up the knockout so that it could be about her again. How do you
brilliant
feel
if she did.
about?
Brilliant if she
I
did.
was about to say, how do you feel about that? Because me personally,
Listen,
based on what I saw, that looked like a reasonable reaction to being dropped aggressively, and then when you're probably already knocked out, having the air choked out of you within seconds of hitting the floor. I think that's a necessary way to look when you probably are on death's door initially, and people are bringing you back.
okay.
I think that's fine. I don't think she was playing it up. If she's an actress, kudos to her,
Okay.
right? But that looked realistic to me, and the emotion she showed a couple days later, talking about having to see herself like that
Mhm.
on the internet. How'd you say she had to stay off social media for a few days because every time she pulled up her Instagram or her X or her
Yeah.
whatever, she saw herself in that way,
Mhm.
and it,
People are
like,
probably tagging her in it.
yeah, 100%.
Look,
And there's memes. Meme culture is crazy.
yeah. Okay. So if she is playing that up, she
Yeah,
is pulling it off fantastically. She is fantastic. Um,
bar none.
I've got older brothers.
Yeah.
When I was wrestling with them as a kid, and they wouldn't stop wrestling when I was done, I would jump against a wall and make some noise, and my dad would run in there, and that would end it. Okay? Listen, if you get yoinked back and your tongue is out you know, and you're still conscious enough and you want to pull something like that off, it could be done. I don't think it was. Let me put that out there. I don't think she was playing it up for the camera. But if she was to just lay there like that, she's breathing. Did she even blink? She didn't blink.
No.
She couldn't have been with it. But if she can hold her eyes open like that and stare right at the camera, give her an Emmy, give her an Oscar, I could see how someone would think, like, if I make this dramatic enough, maybe this will be something I can pivot off of. But I don't think so. I think she got yanked up, and I think she got choked, and I think she was. I mean, for people that are saying that, I could see an avenue for it. I don't think
Yeah.
so, man. I don't think so. Haven't done that to my older brothers though, and found a way.
You're always a mental fighter, huh?
Found a way to get out of that situation gracefully.
For a guy that was fight to the death, jump off the cage, use the fence, you were using the wall as an out in your fights.
Absolutely. Until
Very
my mom
telling.
called me. My mom saw me because we had so the way my house was, the room we would be in, right, would be
Yeah.
here. And the outside of the house came here and then here. So there was a window here and a window here. And she saw me jump up against the wall one day.
That's beautiful.
And so
That makes me so
that's the way
happy.
that ended. And my brothers do
That's
not let me
funny.
live that down to this day. And they
I
shouldn't.
would not.
They shouldn't.
I would not.
Because they knew what was happening and my parents didn't until that one moment. So I got away with it for a little while. But if she wanted to do that and she's,
Smart technique.
you're yanked up, your tongue sticking out, like
Mhm.
no
Great technique.
no expression.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to do nothing but applaud her if she pulled that off on purpose. I don't think she did though. I couldn't go with that and say yes. I couldn't see that as a viable option for somebody to do. But if you're gonna tell me and hold tight that she did, I mean maybe it's possible, but I don't think so.
I feel like anything is possible, but I'm not leaning with that.
You just got laid out, spun around, and choked. I don't think you know what's happening.
Before you could figure out what happened, I
Yeah.
think even processing the
No.
situation
And
was hard to do, much less process and be like, this is what I'm gonna execute in this moment.
if I had to tell somebody, okay, here's the evidence she did not do this. She never tried to stop the choke. She never fought it. At least I don't remember her hands coming up. I don't think she fought the choke.
No, her arms were just out
And
like
then
this.
and then once she was down and that cameraman got that great shot, I don't think her eyes blinked at all. So I don't think she was controlling anything at that point. So if I had to point to any kind of evidence to say that look, that was real what you saw, I think I'd point to those two things and say that is absolutely real what you saw. And she's going to have to see herself getting slept like that multiple times in the coming years. And hopefully she's 27. She's going to be able to still make a career.
She has a
out
long
of this.
career ahead of her if she wants to.
Yeah. But that was brutal. I've never seen anybody knocked out quite like that. And then the jump on with the choke was that Alexa Grasso.
Yeah, it's the icing on top of the cake, or even the cherry on top, I should say. Right? Like I've never seen somebody, because you, as a fighter, you know what it's like to get dropped. And a lot of fighters, again, even if it's to go in with more punches or whatever the aspect is, or to go in and try to get the finish that way, the ferocity at the jump on and choke.
Yeah. Now I could see, because she did jump up. I forgot this part till now. She did jump up and try to wrestle the referee when they let her out of the choke. And then when the referee got her off of her, that's when she laid out like that. And if you want to say that layout was played up, I mean, I don't know, man. I still don't think I could see that.
Yeah, I don't know about
I think she was out. Anytime somebody's trying to fight the referee afterwards, I don't think so. I think they're out of it. They don't remember.
To be determined, man. I'm leaning with she wasn't. I'm leaning with great win for Grasso.
Yeah.
People are asking how good is Natalia Silva then? I think she's an awkward fight for a lot of people who are strikers.
Yeah.
So I think that's
She's
more
very
what
awkward.
it is. And I'd like to see that one again with Grasso saying she feels 100% healthy and she's ready to go. I don't like fighters making the excuse that they weren't healthy.
Yeah.
When you come out and do something like that, though, I start believing it. You know what I mean? Like, Pereira said, I wasn't healthy against Magomed Ankalaev, comes out and finishes him in 45 seconds. And you're like, yeah. Maybe he wasn't, right? Like, he tried to take me down 10 times, couldn't. I know he can't take me down. I'm just going to go in there and knock him out.
Yeah.
Did it. So, like, I can't be mad at that. I think it rejuvenates the women's division that Grasso's in. It rejuvenates women's MMA in general.
Yeah.
People are looking forward to the next group of girls that can do that. Both women's fight on this card ended in KO.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
two of the last women's fight ended in KO.
First round.
The first one was a very
and you don't see that very
decisive-
often.
Yeah. Exactly. You could have made a lot of money off of women's KO first round in this one. If you had put those together. It'd be a silly bet, but you would have made a whole lot of money if you parlayed those two. Fight to end before the distance even for both of those two would probably pay you a lot. But great win for Grasso. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for her as a former champion. Again, I thought she was being a little bit disrespected. She proved it. So. A guy who I thought was also being a little bit disrespected by the odds, but he had to go show that I don't know what I'm talking about, is one of my favorite fighters of all time. Still, I'm not going to leave him to the wayside. Still one of my favorite fighters of all time, Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
Goes in there against Joe Pyfer, which 4 years ago is the perfect fighter to put Izzy against. Right?
Yeah.
Heavy puncher, flat-footed for the most part. Is a grappler, but he doesn't do too much outside of throw heavy punches to get into those grappling exchanges.
Yeah.
Not the strongest jab, not the quickest mover, just there to be hit and teed off on, and calculated. I'd say like Robert Whittaker light to a certain extent, because Whittaker has so many tools, but at the end of the day, like, he's a strong grappler. He's going to stay flat-footed for the most part, and he's going to hit you with heavy punches. Should be catered to Izzy's skill set. And for one round, it was.
Yeah.
The fight was playing out how I expected it to play out.
Yeah.
Izzy was getting in and out of range. Izzy was putting on the calf kicks. Izzy was beating up his legs. Izzy was countering him. Izzy was getting out of the way of those heavy blows pretty effectively. You know, he was there to be hit, and then he wasn't. He was staying off the center line. He was circling the I think it was the left foot. He was circling the weak hand, so that if anything was there to be close to him, it was not the power punch.
Yeah.
Almost a flawless first round. Did get taken down at the end of it, but stuffed a few takedowns in there too.
Yeah.
And I saw, with maintaining somewhat of that strategy, it would be a potentially 5-round decision fight for Izzy.
Yeah.
Or maybe he would wear on that leg enough where Pyfer would be immobile.
Right.
And not be able to load up on those punches, and then he's less of a power risk. And then Izzy could really get in there and overwhelm him with volume punches.
Yeah.
Still not a power puncher by any sense of the word. Still not a knockdown artist or a knockout artist. But, you know, volume and damage could do as much damage sometimes as power. And that's where I thought the fight was going. I had a bet. It was Usry. It was Terrence McKinney. And the last leg was Izzy. And after the first round, I think the cash out was for like $103 or something, right? And I'm like, man, if you could just keep this mentally. But something was like, come on, cash that bet out. Cash it out. Because, like, something didn't feel right?
Yeah.
And then at the beginning of the second round, I tried to, and it was already already blocked. And this is before things started going in a very horrible direction. Because he starts the second round off, executing again pretty skillfully.
Yeah.
And he tags him. And Joe kind of, I don't know if he plays that hurt or if he actually got hurt a little bit, but he steps back with a little bit of a wobble, and he already can't really put much pressure on that leg, on that front foot, because of the calf kicks already after one round. And Izzy pounces, but he doesn't pounce in the way that a 2022 or a 2023 Izzy would pounce. He goes forward and he stands across from him like it's a face-off. He just starts trading.
Yeah.
And it was the one thing that I feel like, if anybody, Izzy's corner, commentators, Izzy fans, Izzy haters, right, would say that Izzy wouldn't do, if he's looking to win a fight, is stand across from one of the stronger punchers in the middleweight division and trade. And he did that. And the results were what we expected. He ate clean punches that snapped his head back. He got wobbled. He got hurt. He ended up getting taken down pretty easily off of the injury. Well, not injury, but off of getting hurt, right? By the punches. And then he got mounted by Joe, and Joe just wailed on him.
Yeah.
And Izzy looked as bad as Izzy's looked in a loss.
Yeah.
And that's with Izzy getting not finished by Imavov, and that's with Izzy getting beat by Pereira. This is the worst and beat by Strickland. This is the worst I've seen Izzy look in a defeat.
Yeah.
Just not able to get Pyfer off the top of him. Face looking terrible. Bad body language.
Yeah.
And the one thing as an Izzy fan that I'm getting worried about is what shifted in Izzy's mind, right? He started losing fights, and that's natural, and guys are going to go down a natural decline. I get that. But when I see shades of the guy who's still there, in there somewhere, shades of the guy who fights tactically, fights defensively, with good offense, fights tactically, still smooth, still quick, right? It can't completely be a gas tank thing because we're not even getting into the championship rounds, right? Maybe it's not wanting to go to those championship rounds, but the guys you're across from aren't even known for going into the championship rounds either.
Yeah.
So what changed in his head? Is there a little bit of, I am a different type of fighter based on what I did to Pereira, that I could bring about this level of, spectacular finishes and clippable, moments and things that I did on my way up that I got chastised for not doing when I had the belt, a la Yoel Romero, where I turned into a quote unquote point fighter.
Yeah.
I got, ridiculed for being that. When on the way up, I was one of the most exciting middleweights that they'd seen since Anderson Silva, hence me getting that Anderson Silva fight, right? Do I need to shift into what I did against Pereira to get people back on my side from a viewing standpoint, right? Or is it man, I am Izzy, one of the better middleweights in UFC history, and these guys aren't on my level, and I see success, let me go ahead and get them out of there to build my way back to a title contention? Or is it, I'm just in there for the vibes now because I am not that guy anymore, right? He said he wanted to feel like he was in a fight.
Yeah.
I thought what you were doing in the first round felt like you were in a fight.
It felt like an Izzy fight.
But it's almost like he's saying he wanted to be in an exchange. And these guys hit hard, Izzy. I know you might have spent like a lot of your way up not getting tagged that much. And you're like, if I could get hit by Pereira instead, okay, cool. But like, a lot of these guys hit hard.
Yeah. Pereira's not the
and
only
you're not
one.
as fast anymore. And you never had an issue cutting weight, and you pointed this out off camera, of course. But his face was sunken for 185 on that weight cut. Izzy was usually an easy, flawless weight maker at 185, right? And then couldn't even make 205 because he was too light. I mean, he made it, but like, you know what I mean? This looked difficult for you for one that I've never seen.
Yeah.
Right? So it leaves me with that question. Like, why did we shift the game plan that quickly? Everything was working flawlessly. The Imavov one, we could base that on lack of speed, lack of judging the distance well. Imavov caught you at the end of the punch. You got, whether it's hurt or stumble, you got dropped. He finished you, right? Sean Strickland gave you a fight that was very difficult, and he tagged you really hard in that first round, and he didn't give you an opportunity to fight a counter-striking fight, and he really put that pressure on you, stood in front of you, popped you over and over time with the hard jab. That's a tough way to go out.
Yeah.
Pereira, we all saw what happened. You got that one back, right? This one was just confusing because Pyfer is a fun fighter, and I think it's a good boost to his resume. And he's fast, and he's quick, and he's a heavy puncher, but I could see Pyfer getting put against a guy like Usry and Usry beating Pyfer. Because again, I think if Usry implements his plan and can avoid takedown defense and can play that distance and punch as hard as he punches, I think he could beat a guy like Pyfer. And once Pyfer gets into that top 6 of like middleweights, I think there's guys that he could beat up there, and I think there's guys that will make, unfortunately, light work of him.
Yeah.
I think Strickland finishes Pyfer.
Yeah.
I think Hamzat beats Pyfer. I think Imavov has the potential to beat Pyfer.
Yeah.
I think Kaio and Pyfer would be a good fight.
Yeah. I think that would
But
be
I
the
wouldn't be
funnest fight.
surprised. I think that would be the more, yeah, I
And
think
I
that would
think
be probably
that might be
the
what you
most
get after
competitive one.
Kaio's next fight, but we'll see.
Exactly. But I still don't think Pyfer is like a world beater necessarily to the level that I thought Izzy was. So as an Izzy fan, it just leads me to believe, like, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get to the end of that contract? Right? You talk about having fun and feeling like you're going to be in fights. People are talking about you moving up to 205 for that reason, where you could still be fast there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's completely speed that's the issue. Something tells me it's the mental, because if you feel like you're going to stand and trade with a guy like Pyfer and you've beaten a Pereira, you might have an idea like, okay, yeah, I'm going to stand and trade with Yuri Prohaska. I can tell you how that's going to end.
Yeah.
I'm going to stand and trade with Khalil Roundtree. I can tell you how that's going to end. So,
yeah,
that's my 2 cents on it. It hurt to see him go out that way, because I feel like I loved his fight IQ on the way up, and I just feel like we're negating all of that recently. So,
Dan Carlin does a podcast called Hardcore History. Don't know if you've ever heard of it, but one thing he talks about when he talks about civilizations is the idea, and he got it from somewhere, I don't know where though, is that you're climbing up the ladder with wooden shoes, and you're coming down in silk slippers, right? Israel went to the top of the game. He was on top of the world, like 8 title defenses, marquee fighter, big moments. And they said this about Conor McGregor. It's hard to get up and train when you're in those silk sheets. It's hard to get up and do that. Add on top of that the age that he's at. People break down at different times. You know, he's 36. That's the same age as Nico, and we're talking about the trouble that he's had. And if you lose a little bit of pop on your punches, you lose a little bit of speed. Carry that on with having to wake up in the morning to do this, and you don't necessarily have to do this. You just like to do this. And he wanted to feel like he was in a fight, because it's something he wants to do. When it's something he wants to do, whereas used to he wanted to do it and had to do it. He had that passion for it. Maybe you don't have as much of that fire that you once had. And maybe that's a realistic view because you are getting older, but you still like to do this. Maybe you're not going to put in the same effort you would during training camp. Maybe you're going to start doing things a little different that takes that intensity down a little bit to lengthen out that career if you wanted to do that. There's no telling what's going through his mind until he tells you what it is. He says he wants to keep going. I'm okay with that, but you're probably not going to see him keep going in main events. I mean, you might 1 or 2 more times, but he's lost, 5 of his last 6? So
I think so, yeah.
You're probably not going to see him. You'll probably see him on the cards, but you're probably not going to see him fighting the top-notch guys. If he wants to do that, he'll have to build himself back up to do that, and that takes a lot to do. And does he want to do that? Or does he want to just keep fighting? Is this just something he likes to do? Maybe he's taking on fighting as a hobby. Maybe that's, kind of what he does when he's not doing whatever the heck he wants to do. I don't know. He's still a good fighter. He was winning that fight. I thought that he was beating Joe Pyfer through 1.5 rounds, and he had Joe Pyfer hurt. And let me qualify this, because I know when we were talking about the other day, I didn't think he was like almost knocked out hurt, but I did think the potential was there. Like, it was where you felt like he might be on some weak legs, and Adesanya could take advantage of it, and he didn't go into close. He went up to him just like you had described earlier. and stood in front of him as opposed to going in to close out. And I thought there were a couple of times I saw in there where Joe Pyfer was hurt. Now, maybe he was faking that to draw Israel in, but he looked a little hurt to me. And so from that perspective, I would say he's lost a little bit too much right now and maybe doesn't have the drive to go back up to the top, but to keep fighting. He's still a fun fight to watch. But there's all sorts of things that can get in the way of your commitment to the fight and wanting to be back up there. And maybe that's a realistic view that you have. Maybe, like, I don't have that anymore, but I still want to keep doing this. And so, and maybe he's content with that. And if he is content with that, fine. But I think you've probably seen the last of him main eventing until he retires. And they'll do a
I
New Zealand
think
card where he retires for him
he'll
if he
be at
wants
the New
it.
Zealand
If he
card.
wants it. And he's done so much for the sport. He's done so much for New Zealand and Australia and that area. I think he would deserve that. He doesn't seem to want it anytime soon. But as far as the fight goes, I didn't think Joe Pyfer looked very impressive. Even in his win, like, and this is not to say like he didn't fight a good fight, but I wasn't leaving that fight thinking this guy's going to be a top 5 fighter now. But he beat Israel
He
Adesanya,
looked
so
fast in
he's up there.
exchanges.
I mean, he
I think
he
his
had
hands
his
looked
moments.
quick.
He had his moments. He showed he has power. He shows he has speed. He shows he can take people down. But it wasn't like a dominating performance. I thought he was losing
No.
most of the fight.
I wouldn't be
So
mad at a Duplessis Pyfer fight.
no,
Or
I wouldn't be mad at that either. There's
or something in that realm. There's a lot of fights for Pyfer
oh
actually
yeah,
for him.
absolutely.
Which is good for him. But
I just think
on the Izzy front,
yeah.
you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't think that this fight highlighted everything he's good at.
No, it didn't.
I think I still do want to see him do it, but if I'm going off of just this fight, while he beat Israel Adesanya, I don't think it highlighted anything for me to want to see him more, except what it did prove is that he could take somebody who has a big name and he's not going to be too nervous for the moment. And that he
Maybe I
did
have
show me
my
that.
biases as well.
Mm.
But I do think it's more of an Izzy losing the fight situation again than an Izzy being straight up defeated.
Right. Yeah.
If he sticks with the strategy, right? Like the Imavov fight, Imavov won it. He caught Izzy at Izzy playing his game and put him down.
Mm-hmm.
Strickland beat Izzy at Izzy's game.
Mm-hmm.
Izzy looked scared to even exchange with him. He beat Izzy. This one, I saw Izzy's mentality shift mid round, and I don't know what caused it.
I felt like I saw that too.
I can't get in his head, and I can't come up with my own analysis onto why everything just shifted for him in those moments. But
yeah,
for him to be that far ahead, I think, in the fight, and then to have that immediate like strategy shift and then lose, it leads me to believe that there's something Izzy did something wrong in the fight rather than Pyfer doing something right. And it is what it is. Again, it's a win for Pyfer. I think he could go up there and maybe make some noise. Again, a Duplessis Pyfer fight, I think, would be a very exciting fight.
I don't know if Duplessis would go
but
for
for
it.
Izzy, I don't think he should. I think Duplessis should be calling for Imavov or something like that.
Yeah.
Since Strickland's getting the title fight. But if I'm Izzy, I could bolster some numbered cards. That would be good.
Mm-hmm.
There's some cards that probably don't have good, secondary. If you could do a Michael Venom Page Izzy on that Sean Strickland Chimaev card, that would be good.
That would be good.
Or an MVP Izzy on the Freedom card, that would be good. Or you could wait for, if you think Chimaev's going to win this fight against Strickland, they're going to do another fight over there in Dubai, and you could do Shara versus Izzy as like the, not co-main, but the third fight with Chimaev versus Imavov over there or something like that. So there's potential. I just don't think he's headlining anymore. Or like you said, he'll eventually get to New Zealand and maybe they'll have a Volkanovski, Evlov, Izzy versus MVP, because I don't think Shara will get the ability to fight over there. And they go full city kickboxing for the most part over there and keep it pushing, right? So I don't think the story's done for him yet. Like
No.
I said, we'll do another pod, and I think MVP Promotions might come knocking after his 2 fights are up if the UFC don't re-sign him.
Yeah.
And that could be a secondary career for him because he's going to get guys that are not UFC talent.
Yeah.
And I think he can still style on those guys. And
Mhm.
shoot, maybe he enters the boxing arena and he fights Jake. And then you don't have to worry about the takedown. But unfortunately, Jake punches hard.
Yeah.
And if you're not as quick, and Jake's been punched by probably one of the hardest punchers in the world, Anthony Joshua,
Yeah.
will he respect you? You know, if you go out there and get beat by Jake, then I can't even walk around calling you my favorite fighter anymore because they'll make fun of me. Like, you think anybody's going around saying they like Tyron Woodley is the best welterweight anymore? No.
Yeah. Well,
And 2 shots of dude wipes staring up off the canvas when Jake knocked him out did that. So, like,
yeah. I think if anything, and I hope he doesn't do that. Jake Paul, for all that he is and all that he isn't, one thing he has clearly shown is that MMA fighters do not belong in boxing.
yeah.
And the only exception of that probably being Holly Holm, who was a boxer first.
hmm
So, um,
I mean, Anderson Silva's been on his run against former MMA guys. He just didn't beat Jake. So,
yeah. Um,
yeah.
but in general, like, you're not the idea that you could be a high level MMA guy and then turn around and go into boxing and become any like high level thing, like you have to stop MMA and like actually learn boxing. And these kids have been doing it since they were little kids. So
Or have the financial status to just lean into it for years on end with
yeah,
nothing else to worry
yeah,
about. Shouts out to Jake Paul.
yeah. But even Jake Paul is not vying for any titles right now. I know somebody ranked
Oh, no,
him.
nah. He's not.
Somebody ranked him, and that's fine. I'm not going to hate on Jake Paul and what he's doing. He's killing it with the money. He's honestly
hmm
been crushing Dana White, and and he's shown clearly that he's not afraid to get in there with some of the toughest people and fight them. Now, are some of those fixed? I think that question is still out there, and I won't speculate on it. Um, I think there's been some questionable looking things in there, but I think the
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley knockout was legit. So
I think you decide to go from fighting a tank whose weight class is below you to fighting Anthony Joshua tells me all I need to know about your willingness to get in there and fight dangerous
yeah,
fights. So I don't really, again, I'm not a hater on
yeah,
Jake Paul per se, but to shift from tank to Anthony Joshua
that's
when you don't have to,
yeah,
that shows me that, okay, you have a little bit of crazy to you and a little bit of belief.
yep,
So that's it. I think it was a great card.
yeah,
I think we're in tune for some fun stuff this week.
mm-hmm,
This card isn't necessarily loaded. There'll be some fun fights on there. If the ability presents itself, we'll preview it. If not, we'll review it.
yep.
But we'll definitely get back on before the Miami card,
Because
which
yeah,
is
you got a big one in
not
Miami,
next week, is the week after that.
the 11th.
April 11th. Yeah, we'll have 2 title fights on that one. But UFC Seattle definitely outperformed what I thought.
Yep,
I say one of the best Paramount cards we've gotten so
yep,
far. Congrats to the winners. Congrats to the people who made moments. And we can't wait to kind of come back on and
yep,
talk about some more things outside of just card reviews and previews. What's going on over there with MVP and Netflix MMA.
yep,
We'll get into that. And we'll get into future fights that we like and some what ifs still.
yep.
And we still have our scoring that we plan to work on
Mm-hmm.
to eventually hand over to you guys and see how you feel about it. Any closing thoughts, Roger?
No, I'm just kind of excited about getting some of these podcasts in the coming weeks and months done. I think they're going to be
No, for
fun,
sure.
and
For sure. For sure. And I think you guys will enjoy them.
yep,
Keep enjoying the clips, keep liking,
yep.
subscribing, and sharing. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.